Today, we're going to be talking about some of the most unique and creative FNAF fan games most people have never heard of. From completely original gameplay ideas to bizarre concepts that somehow work way better than they should. These games stand out from almost everything else in the community. Some of these barely even feel like traditional FNAF games anymore, so let's take a look. When I'm looking for FNAF games to cover, I usually look for a few baseline things, a few bare minimums. However, I do also look for games that have a bit of a goofy aspect to them. For example, the fact that Five Nights to Remember literally has Gooner bait built into it. I think stuff like that is pretty funny, so it's definitely something I look for when determining which games are going to get a Dxtr White video. The game I've played recently started fairly normal with a gameplay loop I enjoyed. However, near the end, something happened that was so completely out of left field, I was at a loss for words. What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck? I'm very excited to talk about this game as I had a very fun time playing. So sit back and enjoy the ride as we dive nuts first into animatronic memories. Animatronic memories starts as many official FNAF games do, that being showing a newspaper clipping asking for a security guard to monitor the building at night. Excited, jumping for joy, and kicking our feet and shit, we accept the offer and start our first night on the job. Entering our new office, we look around and notice that this place is clearly not very normal. Able to look in three directions, directly in front of us we have our computer, which lets us view our cameras. To our right we see the door to our office, and to the left we have a large window. Something I've never really understood about some buildings is why they have windows to other rooms in the building. I'm no architect, but that just doesn't really make sense. I don't know what possible purpose it could realistically serve. Also, this one has a fucking door on it. Fantastic. This game doesn't use a power system. Side note, I am so glad more FNAF games are choosing to move away from the power mechanic. I personally never found it very enjoyable, so I appreciate that many games are choosing to remove it so that your strategy can focus more on nerve control and skill rather than balancing a number. In a game where my only three actions are checking lights, closing doors, and watching cameras, boy do I sure love it when a central gameplay mechanic is limiting how much of those actions I'm allowed to do. It's so much fun. But anyways, since this game doesn't use power and there are two doors, I was curious how this game would pull that off. Let's begin with the window door. This one is very easy. If you're not holding the door down manually, it will automatically rise. Simple. Now let's turn our attention to the much more interesting door, the one that's actually a door. This door you'll notice has three fuses that connect to it. Just like Five Nights at Candy's, the longer you have a door closed, the higher the meter beneath it will rise. But unlike Candy's, this game actually used the mechanic in a much better way. If your meter is to increase fully, one of your fuses will break and the meter will reset. If you lose all three fuses, you will no longer be able to close the door, and the animatronics will very quickly close the gap on you and very quickly close your mouth so you don't make too much noise when they're obliterating your guts like iDubbbz obliterates his reputation. And that's really all you need to know to be able to play this game. All the mechanics are incredibly simple, which I think a lot of people could agree with me when I say that's a breath of fresh air, especially when it seems like every new FNAF release is just trying their best to get on the max mode list. But anyways, on to the threats that this night introduces, that being Bonnie and Chica. Let's pause for a moment. I want to really take the time to appreciate these character designs. Not only are they creepy, not only are they gorgeous, but they're also extremely uncanny. Looking at these characters just makes me uncomfortable in a very unique way. Especially Chica, like fucking ew. Anyways, let's start with Bonnie. Bonnie does exactly what you'd expect him to. He starts on the show stage, randomly walks around the cameras, and eventually lands at your door. Which again, with the way these characters look, it's just really fucking uncomfortable looking, which I love. All you need to do is close the door and you're a-okay. He'll pound on the door and you can reopen it. Chica is much the same, except she's fatter. Since these two are really just here to teach you the basics, beating the night is very easy. But before we can move on to night 2, we get the pleasure of talking about the very neat post-night minigames. After each night, we get to play a repairing minigame. I will say, technically speaking, these aren't really games at all, more just a holding down the mouse simulator, but I love little extra things like this. I would have enjoyed them in a game like Jolly as well, but unfortunately for that game, especially Jolly 3 Chapter 1, the minigames there take so fucking long I'd rather rip out my own catheter than ever play them. However, in this game they're short, sweet, and pretty fun for what they are. We're always tasked with replacing a piece of whatever animatronic is given to us. On night 1, that's Bonnie. The challenge of these nights, if you can even call it a challenge, come in the form of the character behind us, a ratchet-ass looking female balloon boy who probably has a clussy. What the fuck? Holy fuck! Throughout the minigame, you will hear her making noises behind you, slowly inching closer and closer. When she gets too close, you'll have to quickly whip around and fucking tase her, which I think is just awesome. Afterwards, she'll back up off you, and the cycle continues. Overall, not too difficult, but something extra that I think adds some spice to the game. Something you'll notice about the night sections is that they feel a lot shorter than most FNAF games, and that's because they are. But where the game lacks in length of night segments, it totally makes up for in the form of its 8-bit minigames. Usually, I fucking hate these, but I actually don't mind the minigames found here. Let's go over the post-night 1 8-bit minigame. The purpose of these minigames is exactly what you'd think, that being introducing lore and of course sliding in some secrets that allow for a different ending. This game only has 2 of those, thankfully, so I'll be going over the process of getting the true ending right now because no shit. In the first minigame, you play as Freddy. It seems that throughout these minigames, all the characters are preparing for a party. In each minigame, whichever character you play as will have a different task to complete. Freddy's task is being a fat lazy fuck and just talking to the other characters. Wow, Freddy, you're really taking pages out of your toy counterpart's book, huh? Fat lazy piece of shit. Yeah, watch all your coworkers do the work and still take the credit at the end, dick. Anyways, completing the task is obviously not what's important in these minigames, as if you are to complete the tasks, the minigame will end and you won't be able to collect the secret item you need for the true ending. What you should really focus on doing is finding a glitched sprite somewhere around the building. Very similar to going into the glitched areas in FNAF World. For Freddy, the wall will be glitched between 2 tables at the bottom of the map. Touching this glitched area will bring you back to some black space Amori type shit. In this black space, all you have to do is find a Freddy plushie and bring it to one of the crying children. After doing so, you'll be met with a black and white animatic, in which you're in the POV of a kid entering a Fazbear location before getting lured into the back room by a man in a bunny costume. Fuck that molester, bro! Get him out! No, get that fucker out of here, bro! Oh my god. What the fuck? What the fuck? Oh great, I think we all know where this is going. Moving on to night 2, which introduces one new threat, that being Freddy himself, the hulking, titanous, gargantuan-ass bear. He attacks the door exactly like Bonnie and Chica, except he does something even more cancerous. He will also attack your door, except he moves through cameras a lot faster than Bonnie and Chica do, and once he reaches your door, he'll enter a lot faster than them as well. Instead of jump scaring you, he does like Phone Guy says and gets a little bit quirky, choosing to reach his hand into your fuse box and immediately break all of them, then jump scare you. Now, as cool as that is, I do have to ask the question, if he kills you after doing this, then why doesn't he just kill you? Don't get me wrong, I love little details like this and I'm not necessarily complaining, but it's a genuine question. I'm assuming the dev just didn't want to have 3 characters appear to do the exact same thing, even though, to be fair, Bonnie, Chica, and Freddy all end up doing the exact same thing, just at various speeds. This is something that could be attributed to laziness, but you have to answer whether you think it is for yourself, and I'll be talking about it a little bit later. Post-Night 2 repair needs you to fix up Chica and her cupcake. Ew! Ew! Bro, this bitch is disgusting, dude. Again, this is much the same as the last one. Tootsie, which, yes, by the way, is that clown's name, is more aggressive, but it's still pretty easy to deal with. However, the Post-Night 2 minigame is different, and that makes me excited. because, would you believe me if I said this, I will actually enjoy talking about the lore in this game. I know, crazy. Turns out, when I'm told a story where I don't have to spend a billion fucking hours searching for answers, that actually makes it fun. Anyways, in this minigame you play as Bonnie, and the goal of the minigame is to do some sweeping, aka manual labor, something Toy Freddy would avoid at all costs because he's unemployed. But fuck actually doing the task at hand, that's for retards. Instead, we're going to warp the fabric of space and time by touching a busted up table and be teleported directly to hell. Doesn't that sound way better than doing the everyday tasks of a customer service job? Awesome. Well, once you enter black space, all you need to do is find a Bonnie plush and once again give it to one of the crying children. Once again, afterwards we get a cutscene where we're in the POV of a child, this time being bullied by some fat-ass children. Have you guys ever realized that like every bully that's ever existed is about the size of a Ford F-150? Whatever. We get saved by the man in the bunny suit and then immediately get betrayed and murdered. That's right, kids. Not only can you not trust your peers, you can't trust adults either. I guess we should all just give up. Night 3 time. What's the new threat introduced here? And will it have a different mechanic than everything else we've seen so far? This night introduces a fan-made character, something I don't often see when fan games use the official characters. This character's name is Anne, a female Foxy equivalent. Give me Rule 34. What? Who said that? Anyways, she begins on the Pirate's Cove camera next to Foxy. She will, just like Foxy from Five Nights at Freddy's 1, move through phases on the camera until she's ready to attack. When she does, you'll be able to see her run off of the Pirate's Cove camera, wherein she will then book it to your window. When she arrives, you will have to quickly close it until you hear her leave. So, hey, something new, kind of, not really, it's just another door, but I guess that's better than nothing. Oh, did I mention Foxy also activates on this night? Well, he does. Wanna know what he does? Disappointingly, it's the exact same thing Anne does, just a lot slower. Isn't that weird? The fast-running Five Nights at Freddy's character is now slow. Like, I know he has a peg leg, so that's obviously making him move slowly, but like, goddamn, why'd you have to butcher my boy like that? He did not deserve it. But yes, as I've said, Foxy does the exact same thing Anne does. I will say that because they move at different speeds, there are some very rare instances where it can lead to some stress while watching their timings, but the odds of this happening are pretty slim, so you probably will never even experience it. That's honestly my biggest problem with this game. It looks amazing, I'm interested in the story, the sound design is fantastic, and you even managed to make me enjoy the 8-bit minigames. But this game has introduced 5 characters so far, and yet somehow, with 5 characters, there's only 2 mechanics to deal with all of them, and both of those mechanics are closing a door and waiting a few seconds. I've tried my best to think about how I can view this positively, but I really just can't. Sure, I personally like it when FNAF games aren't too hard and I can beat them without too much strain, but I can easily see how this game's mechanics could be a turn-off for some people. There's just not enough happening to keep a lot of people interested. We have one character to talk about who switches up the mechanics a little bit, but I still don't even think that's enough, especially given the time this game was released, that being February of 2025. You might question my complaining of this. Dxtr, the original Five Nights at Freddy's only had 1 mechanic, 2 if you're being generous and calling Foxy a different mechanic. And to that statement, I'd agree. However, there are 2 points that I have to give to that argument. Yes, FNAF 1 only had 2 mechanics, closing the door and stalling Foxy. However, the first thing you need to acknowledge is that Five Nights at Freddy's 1 was released in 2014 and was a pioneer of an entire genre. It has been 11 years since that game's release. I think it's reasonable to expect newer games in the same genre to have evolved, and for the most part, they totally have. Look at The Joy of Creation, Tycoon Sons Lumber Co., Showman's Awakening. All of these games have added so much to the central idea that is Five Nights at Freddy's. This game just doesn't do that. On top of that, let's dive a little bit deeper into Five Nights at Freddy's 1 for a moment. While yes, the only real mechanic in that game is closing the doors for defense, we need to talk about the synergy between Freddy and Foxy. Foxy requires you to look at your cameras to stall him. If you don't, while yes, you can close the door to keep him out, with every pound your door will lose power dramatically, which incentivizes you to look at him. It seems Scott saw a potential bore in this design, so he made Freddy work the same as the others but with a twist to synergize. Freddy can't enter your office while your cameras are down, and he's the only animatronic that will never move backwards, meaning that once he's at your door, he will stay there. He's also the only door animatronic that will not break your buttons, so you don't have to close the door while you're in your office. However, on the contrary, he doesn't work the same way the other two door animatronics do. You can't see him when the light is on, and at the same time, Chica can be at your door while Freddy is also at it because of this. Because of this mechanic, it's very likely that Freddy will be at your door for most of the night, especially on nights 5 and 6. Since the game forces you to check your cameras to stall Foxy, this leads to you needing to close your door before you check the cameras to not have Freddy enter. This is a good synergy between two characters and is why I wouldn't complain about this in that game. In animatronic memories, however, there is no difference between characters that attack the same way like this. Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica all do the exact same thing. Anne and Foxy also both do the exact same thing. Sure, Freddy may break your fuses first, but that doesn't change the fact that he's still doing the exact same thing. Just going to your door and killing you. He just happens to have an animation before that happens. Now, is this a bad thing? I think that's more up to a case-by-case basis. While yes, I do feel that it's boring, I still had plenty of fun playing this game and I would still recommend it to people. I just think it's obviously important to point out flaws like this when analyzing a game. Sorry about that tangent. Moving on to the repair minigame. In this one, we're asked with fixing up Freddy, who has some insane crow's feet. Like, holy shit, this guy's old as fuck. But this doesn't change anything from the last two, so let's move on to the 8-bit minigame. In this minigame, we play as Chica, tasked with collecting ingredients for a cake. Shut the fuck up! I don't care about your bitch-ass task! Let's go to hell! Oh, but before we do that, I should mention that there's an endoskeleton that starts spawning, and if you touch it, you die. So, like, don't do that. Anyways, once we're back in black space, you once again have to get a plushie. This time, doing so is a bit different. You'll see several eyes on the floor. Interacting with them will cause them to close. Once you close all of them, the plushie will spawn and you can give it to the child. After doing so, we're shown another cutscene, this time in the POV of a child who wants a prize from the prize counter. The man in the bunny suit gives us a Chica plush before inviting us to the back room. Once inside, he stabs us, and the last thing we see is our Chica plushie on the floor as we bleed out. So, that's sad. Dude, that's fucking cool as shit, bro. That's cool. No, not her, please! Please, don't ruin your game. Please don't do it, please. Please, I'm begging you, don't ruin your game. Don't add a music box. Please, 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 for the love of God, don't do it. Anyways, night 4 time. This introduces Harley. What? Who the fuck is Harley? Well, the marionette, of course, duh. The marionette thankfully doesn't work in the way you think she does. No music box to wind because the developer of this game isn't Satan. The marionette has 2 different ways of attacking you, something I think is awesome. I think it's super cool when characters can do more than one thing, and I think it's something I'd like to see more often. Her first attack consists of her attempting to shut down the cameras. When she leaves her box, the camera has a chance to glitch. If it does, you have to quickly find her on one of the cameras and press a newly appearing sound disruption button to make her fuck off. The other option of attack is through your vent. I didn't even tell you guys that we had a vent because it's never really important. Instead of glitching the cameras, when Harley leaves, she can make a bell noise as well. When you hear that, you will need to quickly check the kitchen camera and shock her ass, because once she enters it, you're gonna be completely done for, as there's no way to stop her once she enters. Oh hey, something new! Fortunately, sound cues were added so she's not completely AIDS, but if you can beat her, which shouldn't be too difficult, we move on to the repair section where we have to fix Foxy, who, holy shit, has seen better days. God damn, what'd they do to you? First a peg leg and now they filleted you? What the fuck? But after that, we can move on to the 8-bit minigame. Hooray! In it, we play as Anne. Who gives a fuck what the task is? Let's go to the black space using another table. Hooray! This black space section is confusing. So confusing, I actually don't even know how I completed it. Basically, as you walk through black space, you'll see several character symbols on the ground. Then, at the end, you can find several symbols that you can change into a sort of code. You might think, oh hey, just input them in the order you saw them. That's what I thought too, but at least when I was playing, that was seemingly impossible. Then I noticed that a few of the squares had a symbol that no other square had, so I tried to see if each square had a unique symbol, but they didn't. Then I noticed there was this dark rabbit symbol that didn't appear anywhere else in black space, so I tried to input that into each square, but that also didn't work because not every square had one. I'm so serious, I have no idea what the intended puzzle is here. I ended up just randomly guessing it, and eventually I got it. I guess set that to Foxy. Set this to Bonnie. Set this to Chica. I literally do not know what I did. I promise you, I literally do not know what I did, but I did it. If you guys have any idea what the intended solution to this puzzle is, please let me know in the comments. But once you get the plush and give it to the child, we take another look at another cutscene. This time, the man just ganks some random ass kid who was just standing there minding their own business and murders them. No motive. Jesus Christ. I'm not going to bother talking about Night 5 since it's just a harder version of Night 4. Additionally, there's no repair section after this night, only being one final 8-bit minigame. In this one, we play as Foxy. Going into black space, we can place all the plushies we've collected on podiums, which will give us the Foxy plush. Placing it on the final podium will spawn one final child and the minigame will end. Being tossed into one final cutscene, we see another kid get shanked to death. Amazing and deserved. Shouldn't have been a child, dumbass. But what about Night 6? Well, of course, as usual, we were told not to come back tonight, but we said fuck it, we ball, and decided to come back anyways. Nobody was present, we enter the office, but get a strange feeling that we're being watched. Night 6 is just a harder version of Night 5, but however, if you got the bad ending by not collecting the plushies in the black space and the 8-bit minigames, this night will be completely different, but we'll cover that later. After completing the night, a literal masterpiece of a cutscene plays out. Seriously, I can't undermine how amazing this cutscene really is. It starts with us standing in front of the arcade machine. Our suspicions are confirmed when Afton comes up behind us and fucks our shit up, knocking us out. Soon after, the arcade game glitches as fuck, and all of the animatronics walk into the back room. And let me tell you, they're itching to serve up a knuckle sandwich. Jesus Christ. Cut that out, that's corny as fuck. Afton pulls out a shocking device to fuck with the robots, which shuts them down. Thinking he's won, Afton lets his guard down. That's when the spirits of the children attack him. They loosen a pipe on the wall and break it off. They shove Afton onto it, and as the pipe impales his chest, his lungs fill with blood. He slowly dies, staring at the ones whose lives he so easily took. We wake up to see the souls disappearing, finally able to rest. We leave the building, and animatronic memories comes to a close. That is, if you chose to do the true ending. And even though that final cutscene is actually a cinematic masterpiece, I actually think the bad ending is more enjoyable. Why? Well, if you don't collect the plushies, when you re-enter the building on the overtime night, instead of entering the office, we go into an unknown room with several bags laid on the floor. Opening them up, we find the actual fucking remains of the children. What the fuck? This game is so cool. Caught off guard, Afton kills us. However, before we can pass on, a shadow rabbit pulls us into the darkness and we enter another fucking dimension. What the fuck am I looking at? What the fuck? That's right, the overtime night in this game is different depending on which ending you get, and goddamn, that is one of the coolest things I've ever seen. You'll notice that this office is set up in the same way as the normal office, having 3 directions to look in, one your desk, another your door, and the final being your window. Let's go over each threat because there's a few of them. Starting with the shadow rabbit, you'll have to constantly watch your cameras in case he appears on one of them. When he does, you have to press the big goofy ass red button on your desk to make him disappear. And that's really it for him. And that's actually the only reason you ever have to check the cameras. So, how do the other characters add anything of substance? I'm glad you asked. I'm gonna tell you because it's a fucking review, dumbass. You'll also notice on your desk you have 2 masks. Now, if you're anything like me, seeing these 2 things scare you a little, but I promise the mechanic with these 2 isn't ass at all. Occasionally, you'll see either a fucked up baby clown face or a Ballora looking face appear on your static monitors. Whichever face you see is the mask you will have to put on until the face goes away. Bada bing, bada boom, that's another threat down. Now, the main threats we're being attacked by in the bad ending are the souls of the children, because by not collecting the plushies, we've basically been neglecting them. At your door is where Bonnie attacks. The door starts closed and is closed most of the night, with you actually not even being able to open it. Occasionally, Bonnie will attempt to force it open, and flashing your light at him will cause the door to close. Leave it open for too long, and I bet you can guess what'll happen. Moving back to your desk is where Chica will attack. Chica herself doesn't kill you, but she can be a pain in the ass if you're not ready for her. Right before the hour is about to turn, she'll reach onto your desk to pause your clock. Click her and she'll leave, but you have to be fast. If she manages to pause your clock, you'll have to complete that hour again, making the overall night last longer. This is honestly a mechanic I think is pretty damn interesting. While yes, it's annoying if you don't catch her, the way to beat her is easy enough that it isn't bullshit to deal with. Easy mechanic with a horrific consequence. I love it. Moving to your window is where Foxy and Ann are. Sadly, once again, both do the exact same thing. Occasionally, they'll pound on your window, which is now boarded up by metal bars. All you have to do is hold your flashlight on them and they'll eventually leave. Very basic. Once again, literally identical to Bonnie, just in a different location. Shine your flashlight, they leave. The final threat is Freddy, who, once again, like Chica, can't kill you by himself, but is a big annoyance. Occasionally, he'll jump in front of your face and block your view. You'll have to spam the spacebar to pull him off you and dropkick him through a chain link fence. But after that, those are all the threats. If you can manage to hold off long enough, you'll enter one last cutscene, albeit not as grandiose as the true endings. You manage to escape the grasp of the souls. As you attempt to pass on, you look back and see the souls desperately trying to pull you back into the darkness. Escaping the souls, leaving them behind to suffer forever. You move on to the afterlife, and finally fucking die. So yeah, very stark contrast between the 2 endings. I actually felt like there was a major difference, unlike in most FNAF games, which I can definitely appreciate. But with that, as far as I'm aware, that's all Animatronic Memories has to offer. Overall, I think Animatronic Memories is an enjoyable experience. I only got 1 ending in my playthrough, and I probably wouldn't want to get the other. Not because I don't want to see it, but because of how lackluster the gameplay loop is. With there really only being 2 mechanics, closing doors and shocking the puppet, I don't want to discourage anyone from giving this game a try. It's fun to play, it's an engaging story that's easy to follow, and that is something I can definitely appreciate. One of my favorite genres of games is roguelikes. I also, as I'm sure you could have guessed, really like Five Nights at Freddy's games. I've only built a whole career off of it, so I'm sure you could have figured that out. So I bet you can imagine my pleasant surprise when I was told that there was a Five Nights at Freddy's game that was also a roguelike. The moment I learned of this, I downloaded it as fast as I could and started filming videos because I just knew even before playing it that it was going to be getting a Dxtr White video, and here we are now. You guys know what game I'm talking about. You can see the length of this video. I very clearly like this game a lot. So sit back, relax, and join me as we dive into the chaotic world of Too Many Nights. Unlike most FNAF games, Too Many Nights doesn't follow any storyline or the typical FNAF formula. Instead, it acts as an endless minigame that doesn't stop until you fail. Although I'm sure you already knew that considering everyone on Earth has played a roguelike before. At the start of each run, you will get to pick a character, of which there are many. Each character gives you a different set of abilities, with each having a list of pro and cons. You don't start with all of them and will have to gradually unlock them by doing specific tasks. I'll go over them in a bit. After picking a character, you will have to select 3 animatronics to put into the pizzeria. And this is where this game gets brilliant. You get to choose 3 animatronics yourself. The game will never choose them for you, and your initial choices will be random at the start of each run. However, if you really don't like your starting options, you can press R to re-roll your first pick as much as you'd like. As I'm sure you could have guessed, there are several animatronics in Too Many Nights. Each has a unique mechanic, and it will be up to you to plan out which animatronics you bring along, and control how they will be forced to interact with each other. Each animatronic falls into a certain category. You have your door animatronics, your camera animatronics, your mask animatronics, your vent animatronics, your flashlight animatronics, and what I'm going to call your nuisance animatronics. Each of these categories serves its own purpose, and generally speaking, picking multiple animatronics from the same category will make your gameplay experience easier. Before I really start talking about the characters, I'd like to explain the rest of the experience of a run. To start, after selecting your first 3 animatronics, the run will begin. After completing a night, you will be forced to add 1 new character. Every few nights, you will also be forced to add a penalty. These penalties fall into 2 categories: your general penalties and your character penalties. I'll dive into each of these later as well. After selecting a penalty, you may get the chance to go to the shop and buy some items. Throughout the night, you will gain Faz coins from successfully defending yourself from the animatronics. Once again, I will get into these items later. Keep repeating this process until you eventually die, and boom, that's the gameplay loop of Too Many Nights. Of course, that was a very oversimplified explanation. So now we're going to dive into each of the animatronics, how they work, and to keep it interesting, I'll even throw each character into a tier list so that you can all argue about it in the comments. But hold up, guys. I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan. The same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I'm just going to go down the list that appears on the wiki, and be prepared, there are a lot of animatronics. Editor, I'd say I'm sorry for what you're about to have to do, but that would be a lie. Let's go. Freddy is a camera animatronic, aka my personal least favorite type of animatronic. Freddy will start on stage and make his way towards your right door. All you have to do is occasionally stare at him on the cameras to make him go backwards. I'm sure you can guess why I'm not going to like a majority of these camera animatronics. If he ever reaches your door, he will never leave and you'll be forced to keep it closed for the rest of the night or die. Freddy also has 5 penalties that have the option to be chosen when you have to select a penalty. The first is Mad Freddy, which will make you have to look at Freddy longer to make him go backwards. His second penalty is Branched, which gives him a chance to be able to attack your left door as well. And when you're playing this game, you will very quickly fall into a pattern. So having a character be able to switch up on you like this would very obviously throw you off. Stare Down is another Freddy penalty. This one is horrific. It makes Freddy never move backwards. Staring at him will only stall him. However, to compensate, he moves a lot slower, and the camera doesn't have to be up for you to be able to stall him. Invisifreddy is a penalty that I'm sure you could take a solid guess at what it does. That's right, it makes him fucking invisible. Isn't that great? Sure, a sound cue is added to his movements, but fuck that. That just sounds like AIDS. Finally, we have Nuh-uh, a penalty that's just so silly. When Freddy gets to your door, he will prevent the door from ever closing again throughout the rest of the night. Isn't that awesome? No, it isn't? Yeah, I know. Don't choose this one if you can help it. Overall, I'm not a fan of Freddy, but without penalties, he isn't the worst character in this game, so I'm going to give him a C tier. Bonnie is a door character, aka a character I usually like to pick. Bonnie starts on stage and makes his way to your left door. Once there, a sound cue will play and you'll have to close the door and stare at him on the camera until he goes away. Then you can open the door again. Incredibly easy character, however he does have 3 penalties. Cutting is a penalty that makes both Bonnie and Chica take shorter paths to your doors. Because of how easy both of them are to deal with, this penalty isn't too bad. Quiet Steps makes Bonnie and Chica not make sound cues while at your door, so yeah, fuck that. No other words need to be said. And finally, flip side is a penalty that will make Bonnie and Chica swap doors immediately after leaving the first door. Easily the second worst penalty these two have. Speaking of Bonnie and Chica, Chica is literally identical to Bonnie, except she attacks the right door instead of the left. And because of this, and how quick I am to pick these two, I'm putting both of them in S tier. Foxy isn't the worst character I've seen, but I did avoid choosing him for a very long time. Foxy will try to leave his stage in the ticket booth. Have your camera on him to stall him. If you don't, he'll charge at your door and bang on it, and make you lose a poop sock full of power. Foxy has 3 penalties and 1 item, which is pretty cool. Insta-Foxy is a penalty that will cause Foxy to instantly start in his last phase at the start of a night. This penalty actually isn't that bad at all, just let him charge right away and it's like the penalty isn't even there anymore. Hen House is a penalty that forces the camera to be up to stall Foxy, which actually is the most cancerous thing I've ever heard of. Haywire is the final penalty, which will make him attack your other door directly after attacking the first door. The only bad part about this is that him banging on your door drains power. And the item that Foxy has is called Good Guy, which makes Foxy not a threat. Looking at him will make him progress, and when he comes to your office, he'll give you a nice little gift like a good boy. Because of how much of a non-issue he is if you balance him properly with the other characters, I'm putting him in B tier. Mangle is a vent animatronic, and she's honestly not that big of a problem. She'll move through the cameras into one of your vents. All you have to do is put your mask on when she's in a vent. She will enter the office for a short period and then leave. I personally hate having to use the mask in this game, so I try my best to avoid characters that force that, but Mangle is probably the easiest of them. Mangle does have 3 penalties. Anger management is a penalty that makes looking at Mangle speed her up. Aggressive Mangle is a penalty that makes Mangle force you to put the mask on for longer. And finally, Slithering In is a penalty that causes looking at Mangle in the vents to make her immediately appear in your office. Overall, I hate the mask mechanic. However, Mangle isn't the worst mask character in the game, so I'm giving her a C tier. Caroline, or the Marionette, behaves exactly how you'd expect her to. She's a music box. Hooray! Who could have expected that? If the music box winds down, for the rest of the night she will randomly teleport to a camera with a sound cue at random intervals. You will have to find her and stare at her if you don't want her to kill you. She does, however, have a whopping 6 fucking penalties, so that's just amazing. Let's go over all of them quickly. Winding down makes you have to wind the music box for longer. Moving box makes the music box move to a random camera every time you pull the camera down. AIDS. Muted music makes her not make a sound cue when she teleports to a camera. Show Stealer gives you less time to find her while she's away from the music box. Last Stand is really ass, by the way. When it turns 6 AM, Caroline will teleport to a random camera, and the night will only end once you find her. Dude, there's nothing I can do about that. I can't do anything about that. That's just fucking cooked, bro. I can't do nothing about that. And finally, the worst penalty yet, Caroline Carousel, which will make her be away from the music box the entire night. Genuinely, never pick this penalty. Caroline is definitely annoying, but in all honesty, the music box is pretty forgiving until much later nights. So, because of this, I'm only putting her in D tier. Lizzie is the first non-FNAF canon character we'll be talking about. Fun fact, there are a lot of non-canon characters, but I think that's what adds to this game's charm. Lizzie herself isn't actually the threat. She spawns down bitty buds in your office while your camera is up. Simply hold your flashlight on them and they'll disappear. If there are too many, they'll call Lizzie and she will then kill you. Lizzie has 2 different penalties as well. Speedy Bud will make the bitty buds call Lizzie to your office faster, and Help Wanted will turn the brightly colored bitty buds into dark colored plush Lizzies, which are much harder to see in the very purple office. Lizzie is one of my favorite characters to see in my runs. I love flashlight characters, and I really love office characters. So because of this, I'm giving her S tier. BB is a bitch, but I'm sure you didn't need me to tell you that. And of course, they gave him the worst mechanic of all time. At random times, he will teleport to a random camera with a sound cue.
Hello?
You will have to find which camera he's on and hold the flashlight on him.
Bye-bye.
If that wasn't bad enough, his penalties make him even worse. Mute BB makes him not make a sound cue, which is actually just fucking torment. Don't pick this. I'm Moving will make him teleport to a second camera after you find him the first time. Little asshole. And Aggressive BB will force you to hold the light on him for longer. Literally, fuck that. I'm sure from the tone in my voice, you can tell I really don't like BB, so because of that, I'm obviously giving him an F tier. Sparky the dog is a camera character that makes me piss blood. He's in the storage room and has 4 phases he will move through before appearing in your office and forcing you to put the mask on for a decently long time. To prevent this, all you have to do is stare at him on the cameras, something I've already made clear I'm not a super huge fan of. He also has 3 penalties if your urine wasn't already red enough. Mad Sparky will force you to look at him on the cameras for longer to push him back. Sparky Speedy will make Sparky move faster, obviously. And Aggressive Sparky will make you put the mask on longer if he enters the office. I don't like camera characters. I hate the idea of staring at a character to stop them. D tier. Percy Poodle, yes, from Playtime with Percy, is easily one of the best characters in the game. Being an office flashlight animatronic, all he does is have multiple phases in front of the big office window. He'll start pounding on the glass in his final phase, and you'll then have to hold the flashlight on him to make him go back. He also only has 2 penalties, and both of them really aren't that bad. Aggressive Percy will make him only go back to his last stage the first time you deal with him, but only the first time, so who cares? And Mute Percy makes him make no sound cue when he's pounding on the glass, so just open your eyes and this won't be a problem. Percy is simple, Percy is always an easy pick, S tier. Rowan Rat, on the other hand, is actual fucking torment. At random times, he will appear in any of the 4 corners of the building. When you see him in one, shock him and he'll go away. You will also have the ability to use a radar to detect where he is and where he's going. Oh yeah, and you only have a certain number of shocks, so that's just terrible. He has 4 possible penalties, and all of them are worse than death. Aggressive Rowan gives you less time to shock him. No radar removes the fucking radar, making you constantly have to check all 4 corners yourself. Less shocks obviously gives you less shocks, as the name would suggest. And Invisi-Rowan makes him fucking invisible. Fuck that. Never in a million years am I picking that shitty option. Rowan by himself isn't the worst, but if you get any of his penalties, which will happen eventually, he becomes a nightmare. So I'm putting him in D tier. Maple is almost a good character, but because it's not the only character you'll be up against, it's hard to find it as an attractive pick. At the beginning of each night, it will require you to collect a certain amount of plushies. This number increases with its AI value. You will then have to search around the cameras for these plushies. If you don't find them all before 6 AM, it'll kill you. Amazing mechanic, but again, it's not the only one, so it's really just more of a pain in the ass. It does have 3 penalties. What are those? Well, Early Killer will have it check if you have the plushies at 5 AM rather than 6. Hidden Counter will literally just make it not tell you how many plushies you need to find, which is bullshit. And Restock will add a timer to how fast you need to find the plushies. If you don't find them in time, it'll re-hide all the plushies again, forcing you to find them all in pretty much one go. Again, it's not the worst, but can easily get out of control on later nights when you start to only focus on certain cameras while it has the large plushie counter. So I'm going to give it a C tier. Noelle is another very interesting character that easily has the chance to be forgotten about. When you start the night, a pair of scissors will appear on a random camera. At complete random, Noelle can appear in the office with a sound cue. When it does, you need to find the scissors and click them to make it go away. The scissors will then teleport to another random camera. If you don't click the scissors, it'll force you to put the mask on for a few seconds, which is a long time in this game. Noelle, of course, has 3 penalties. Pull down will make it forcefully pull down the camera when it enters your office, which could honestly be seen as a good thing. Bro, that's not okay. I fucked myself. Having the force pull down from Noelle mixed with the Roby absolutely fucking creamed my ass, dude. Aggressive Noelle is terrible. When it enters your office, if you click any camera aside from the one with the scissors, it will immediately make you put the mask on. And Crazed Teddy will cause it to insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. A certain item does affect Noelle, however. If you have Chill Pill, you will get 4 additional seconds to put the mask on when it attacks you, which is a lot of time in this game. I'm not a huge fan of Noelle, especially not when it has Aggressive on, so because of this, I'm going to put it in C tier. Melatonin is a real bitch of a character. It moves around the cameras, but it's invisible when it does. You'll hear it laughing in one of your ears, and on the 3rd laugh, you'll have to close the door of whichever side it's on until you hear it leave. It has 2 penalties that just serve as the salt in the wound as well. Switch Up is easily the worst. Before it moves, you'll have to check the dining room to see a counter for how many laughs it'll have before attacking, now being randomized from 2 to 4. Unplanned only makes its first laugh on the correct side, needing you to remember which side it was originally on. I don't like characters that I can't see. I also find it really hard to keep a timer in your head like you need to do with melatonin, so because of this, I'm putting it in D tier. Lydia is a dog. She'll be in the ticket booth in a fucking cage where she belongs. When you hear her banging on the cage, you'll have to take her out like Ol' Yeller. Just kidding, you actually just have to hold the cage until that dumb mutt shuts up. The wiki for some reason doesn't have a page for her, and since I avoided her at all costs, I actually never experienced any of her penalties. But if I had to guess, I'd bet one of them makes you hold her cage for longer and another makes her not make noise when she's attacking. But going off of how I know her to be with no penalties, I'm going to put her in C tier. Amber is a character that at first didn't seem too bad, but will very quickly become a run killer. She begins at the entrance. At random times, she'll hold up a playing card with a suit on it. You will then have to click the corresponding suit on the cameras or she'll kill you. The 2 penalties she has might actually be the most evil ones in the entire game. Follow suit will give her the ability to have more than 1 card, and 52 pickup will make that number of cards she can hold literally be any number, which is so retarded I can't even begin to explain why you shouldn't pick this, so just don't. I thought Amber would be great, but I very quickly started to avoid her whenever I could. C tier. CG is annoying, a nuisance character, but not very hard to deal with unless you get unlucky. She will randomly move around the cameras, and if you look at her on the cameras for too long, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. Her penalties aren't really the worst, however. Aggressive CG will make you put the mask on for longer, and Insta CG will make her enter your office if you look at her, period, even if only for a fraction of a second. However, a monitor is added to your office showing exactly where she is at all times so that you can easily avoid her. There are much worse nuisance characters, and if you don't have any of her penalties, she really isn't a problem. B tier. Dsam is a character I never once chose throughout my playthrough. You may think that makes me a bad reviewer, but I personally think that makes me someone who values not killing myself. Sam will slowly walk back and forth in front of your window with some sound cues. Before he gets to a door, you will have to close it, making him a character you pretty much always have to be watching. He has 2 penalties. Quiet Sam removes his sound cues, and Invisisam forces you to only use his sound cues. So pick your poison, dumbass, or even better, just don't pick this character. D tier. Roby is torture. I thought he wouldn't be so bad, and let's just say I wasn't so right. He sits in your office with a timer on his eye. When it reaches 0, you must have your mask on or you will die. He has 2 penalties that are all equally terrible. Mute Roby removes the sound cue he makes right before waking up. Awoken Roby makes him stay awake longer, forcing you to put the mask on longer. I'm dead serious. Don't pick this character. He is horrific. F tier. Alexis is simple, but very easy to forget about, especially on later nights. She will randomly wander around the cameras. If you pull the camera down while on the camera she's at, she'll make you put the mask on for a really long time. So you'll have to switch cameras before pulling them down. She also has 3 penalties. Aggressive Alexis makes her act like CG, where looking at her for too long will also make her attack you. Sneaky Ghost will only make her appear on a camera after you look at it for a second, and Crazed Ghost will insta-kill you instead of making you put the mask on. If you are diligent and aren't an idiot, Alexis is not an issue. But because of how fast you'll be switching through cameras on later nights, I can't give her any higher than a B tier. Onion is another character I never choose. When you pull up the cameras, there's a chance he'll be on them and quickly run left or right. You will have to close the corresponding door. If you close both, he'll drain a bunch of power. Again, for some reason he doesn't have a wiki page, so I don't know what his penalties are, but just knowing what he does, I'm going to put him in C tier. T Generic is a very annoying character who I only choose if every other character was ass. He will be in the entrance with an arrow on his face. Once he leaves the entrance, he will go to whichever vent he was pointing to, and you'll have to stare at him in that vent until he goes away. If he gets into your office, you'll have to put the mask on for a very long time. He has 3 penalties that somehow make him even more annoying. Crazed Robot will make him insta-kill you instead of putting the mask on. How About I Do Anyway will make him enter your office regardless of if you looked at him in the vents or not. However, if you did look at him, you'll have to put the mask on for a shorter amount of time. And Glitched will make T Generic sometimes switch what vent he's going to, making his arrows completely useless. He's a character that breaks the rules and that breaks my balls. D tier. Kaiden acts in much the same way as T Generic. He'll start in the entrance holding a sign with an arrow pointing left or right. Once he leaves with a sound cue, you'll have to close whichever door he was pointing to. He of course has penalties that make him silent and make him go in the opposite direction the sign was pointing to. I've actually picked Kaiden multiple times because if you can avoid his annoying penalties, he's an incredibly easy character to deal with, since you can close both doors when you hear his sound cue for about 2 seconds and not have any additional penalties. A tier. The ink monstrosity is always an immediate pick for me. It starts in your office on the ceiling and slowly creeps down. Hold your flashlight on it to force it back up. The best part is it'll basically teleport all the way back up when you flash the light on him, but that's where his penalties come into play. Stubborn will make you have to hold your light on him, removing the loveliness of this character, but overall still isn't too bad. Head Start will make the ink monstrosity start halfway down in your office and won't be able to go all the way back up to the top. Easily the worst penalty this character has. I love this character, always an immediate choice for me. S tier. Robo Popcakes is a character I initially avoided, but eventually grew to really like picking. At random, he'll spawn on your cameras. Not a specific one, he'll just be an overlay. You will have to match up 2 patterns using the arrows on the overlay, and once you do, he'll disappear. If you don't do it in time, you'll die. This character is always one I liked choosing because of how likely I am to pick characters like Bonnie and Chica, because while I stare at them on the cameras, I can deal with RoboCake, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. He has 2 penalties. X = X minus 2 gives you 2 less seconds to align his face, and pop time will only cause time to progress when you complete a Robo Popcakes attack. Overall, even with max penalties, Robo Popcakes isn't a terrible character. A tier. Entity 12 is pure masochism. They'll start in the storage or maintenance and move down your hall. Watch them on the cameras to make it go back. If they get to your office, they'll make you put the mask on for a long ass time. And get this, the 2 penalties they add doesn't make it any better. Aggressive Entity 12 will make you put the mask on for the rest of the fucking night if they gets into your office. And Run Killer will literally start with it inside of your office and it will never leave. Literally fuck that, fuck this character, F tier. Mura is a character I'd highly recommend not picking if you have other characters that don't want you spamming through cameras, because you will have to be doing that a lot with Mira. Mira will be in the kitchen the entire night and will require you to feed her candy. If you don't feed her enough, you'll die. Candy will randomly spawn throughout the cameras, so you'll have to surf through them to click on them. The penalties she adds are brutal. Savory Tooth makes candy spawn less. Small Plate puts a small cap on the amount of candies you can hold at a time. And Sweet and Sour adds sour candies that will remove a candy from your candy counter if you click on them. So if you've been working your muscle memory this whole time and get this penalty, have fun clicking on every single sour one all the time. I'm not a fan of the camera surfing this character brings, and I'd much rather prefer to just ignore picking her. D tier. The Ringmaster is an interesting character. He'll randomly spawn on your cameras. When you see him, you'll have to flip the camera down and greet him in your office. If you switch cameras, he'll make you put the mask on for a long time. Crazed Magician is a penalty that will make clicking off of his camera just instantly kill you. And Masked Magician will make flipping down the camera always make you put the mask on, but for less time than usual. I don't love picking Ringmaster, but I will usually end up choosing him later in a run. B tier. The Entity is someone who gives me AIDS. They will randomly spawn on your cameras in 3 locations, except only one of them is actually real. You'll be able to tell because the fakes will be more transparent. Again, for some reason their wiki isn't available and I never actually chose any of their penalties, so I'm not totally sure what they are. But I hate find them on the camera characters. You guys know that. D tier. No VA is a character I only dealt with once, acting as probably the most nuisance characters of all the nuisance characters. No VA will randomly move around your cameras. You will have to avoid clicking on the camera it's on or you'll have to put on the mask. On lower AI levels, the camera it's on will be marked with green, making it very easy to see. As the AI goes up, it'll get harder and harder, eventually becoming fucking invisible. And let me tell you, the penalties make it even worse, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Malware makes clicking on no VA's camera kill you instantly. Spamware makes no VA on multiple cameras at a time, and adware creates an adware window on your cameras. If you don't close it fast enough, it will force you to look at no VA's camera. I actually think this character is really cool, and I think that its penalties are actually super interesting. Aside from malware, that one is AIDS. I still don't love picking this character though, because I hate mask characters. So because of this, I'm giving no VA C tier. Moldy is a character that is a really good pick for early game, but late game will easily become a character you will forget about. Whenever you pull down your camera, there's a chance he'll be in your office. If he is, you'll have to hold your light on him for a while, or you'll have to put the mask on. He has 2 penalties. Aggressive Moldy will make you have to shine your light on him for longer, and Crazed Mold will make pulling up the camera while he's in your room instantly kill you. Again, early game, he's amazing, but you will very quickly forget about him once more characters start to get added. So because of this, I'm giving him B tier. Rita Rabbit is thick, but that's not important. What is how she works. She sits on her fat ass in the arcade, slowly attempting to leave. All you have to do is hold the flashlight on her to make her go away. Honestly, not that bad of a character if you pair her with other arcade characters, which there is a decent amount of. She has 2 penalties. Aggressive Rita will make you hold your flashlight on her longer, and Cheeky Rabbit will make her move faster the longer you're not looking at her camera. If you know how to stack her with other characters properly, Rita shouldn't be a problem even if you have her penalties. A tier. Coral is another character that I love seeing as an option to pick. Coral will randomly appear at either of your doors with no sound cue, so you'll have to make sure you're paying attention. Simply close the door he's at and he'll knock, letting you know he's left. He has 2 different penalties. Blinding will make you additionally hold the flashlight on him for a while, and making sure will force you to have your camera down while the door is closed in order for him to leave. I love this character, he's super easy to deal with, S tier. Shrimp is another character that just makes me giddy with joy whenever I see her. Shrimp will occasionally spawn some shrimp food in your office on either side. Whichever side it's on is the side you have to close the door of until the shrimp food disappears. The 2 penalties she adds are easily some of the best to deal with. Big Shrimpin' is a penalty that will cause the shrimp food to have the chance to be really big. If it's really big, you just have to close both doors. And Small Shrimpin' gives the food the chance to have the lid off. If it is, all you have to do is close the door to the opposite side of the food. Shrimp is incredibly easy to deal with, she's satisfying to deal with, and she doesn't use the fucking cameras, which I love. Easy S tier. Worm is the next character we have to talk about, and I avoided this guy like the plague. I was very scared of how it was going to work, so I never actually ended up using it. Worm will start in the dining room and go down your right hall and will stay there until you open the door. When you open the door, it'll crawl through your office. Avoid looking at it either by using the mask or looking at the cameras until it leaves. It also has 2 penalties. Snail makes it move across the office slower, and Digger will make Worm add another bar of power usage while it's at your door. Worm just seems like a character that would completely disrupt the flow of the night, and because of that, I'm putting it in D tier. Kyle and Bob are the 2 next assholes I want to talk about, and these guys are weird, and also really shitty and confusing, and I don't fully understand them. Kyle and Bob are 2 separate animatronics, but they work in tandem. Both of them are vent characters. If Kyle, the yellow one, enters your vent, you have to look at him on the camera or he will enter your office and make you use the mask. If Bob is in your vent, you can't look at him on the cameras or he'll enter your office and make you use the mask. The only problem is, I was never able to figure out how to tell which one entered the vent. At first, I thought maybe they'd alternate and I'd have to remember, but then during one run, Kyle attacked twice in a row. So I'm thinking there has to be something I'm misunderstanding about these 2. Of course, they each have 2 penalties. Crazed Sun makes them instantly kill you if they enter your office, and Eclipsed will make one of them invisible while the other is in the vent. I tried to like these guys, but because I'm retarded and can't fully figure them out, they were never for me. D tier. Magi is a pretty interesting character. He will consistently walk back and forth in front of your window. At random, he will make a sound cue letting you know he's about to attack.
Come on, go.
When he does, you have to close the door to the side he's on, leading to you needing to keep track and remember which side he's on at all times. This isn't too bad for someone like me who tries to be able to stay in the office as much as possible. Maggie has 3 penalties. Reach around will change the way his sound cues work. If he says "surprise" or "you won't see this one coming," you will then need to close the door to the opposite side he's on. This can be confusing for obvious reasons. Do It Myself is a penalty that will make Maggie attack the opposite door whenever you deal with his puppet the first time. And Invisimagi makes him fucking invisible, as I'm sure you could have guessed. Maggie is not my favorite, but I have no problem picking him later in the run when things are getting tight. B tier. Mallory, on the other hand, is torture. She stays in the ticket booth. At random, she will hold up any amount of fingers on one hand. You will then have to flash her with the flashlight that many times. If you flash her too many times, or not enough, she will dash at your door 15 times. This is AIDS. And I can't even lie, 15 times? Why so many? Seems a bit overkill, don't you think? But let's talk about her penalties, which she has 3 of. Ambidextrous will make her be able to show you up to 8 fingers. DoorDash will make her charge 20 fucking times instead of 15, and DoorDash EX makes her charge your doors for the entire night. Easily one of the most bullshit characters when you have her penalties on, but if you can avoid choosing them, she's only really ass because her hand is conveniently behind the fucking camera map. D tier. Roy is one of the only camera animatronics I can actually stomach. He starts in the dining room and slowly makes his way to your office. You can lure him to a previous camera by holding your flashlight on them. Since he's a moth, he's attracted to the light. He only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Roy, which will just make you have to hold the light for longer to get him to move. Overall, very solid character, and not too annoying to handle until his AI value gets really high. A tier. Silly is kinda silly. Fuck, editor, cut that out. Silly is my favorite vent animatronic. He moves around the cameras, who gives a fuck? Eventually, he'll enter one of your vents. When he does, all you have to do is hold the flashlight on him before he enters your office and eats your butt. He also only has 1 penalty, Aggressive Silly, which makes you hold the flashlight on him for longer. Very simple character, he makes sound cues, I like sound cues, S tier. Next up, we've got Bop. She's an interesting, ADHD-riddled little fuck. When you pull down the camera, there's a chance she'll be standing in your window. She will then dash towards either of your doors. Simply close that door before she gets to it. She has 3 penalties. Layered Square will make Bop charge your doors multiple times. Bop Spawn will cause Bop to be able to spawn at your window even if the camera is down, and Force Down will make Bop force your camera down if it is up. A character that requires quick reaction time, and when more characters get added can be easily missed. E tier. Venus is a fucking plant. Oh, you want to know what they do? Sure, that's fair enough. Venus will sit in the kitchen the entire night like your mom in the middle of the night looking for more food, even though she ate 65% of dinner that night. Throughout the night, bunnies will spawn in your room and you'll have to click on them to collect them. You then feed these bunnies to Venus in the kitchen camera. Very fucked up, Venus. These bunnies are cute. Venus has a hefty 4 different penalties, actually being one of the highest in the game. Wabbit hunting will make the bunnies in your office jump around, making them harder to click. Except they're still not hard to click, so it's not that bad. Depopulation will make the bunnies spawn less frequently. Wanderer will make Venus randomly move around your cameras instead of camping the kitchen. And Mako will add Venus's friend Mako into your office. If you click on him, you'll die. Venus is very fun to play with. Their mechanic is satisfying, clicking on the bunnies is fun, and even most of their penalties aren't too bad. S tier. Cyrex is the next character we need to talk about, and I absolutely hate her. She starts in the ticket booth and slowly makes her way to your office. Before she gets to your office, you'll have to go to the ticket booth camera and call her to your office manually and then put the mask on. If she gets to your office by herself, I'm assuming you can guess what happens. And if you couldn't have already guessed, her penalties aren't much better. Rising aggression makes her make you put the mask on longer the longer you take to call her to your office. And Call Tracker will randomize the camera the call button is on every time you use it. This character is Torment. This character is Anguish, F tier. Next we have Ellie, another character so potently AIDS I fear even talking about her. Her goal is to chew the wires in the storage room to cut your power. You will have to watch for her in either hall. When she's in one, you must make sure the door on that side is open and shake a box of snacks on that side of the office to lure her inside of the office. She will leave shortly thereafter. If your office door isn't open when you lure her, she will bang on the door and drain your power. She also has 3 penalties if this didn't already sound terrible enough. Shaker will force you to shake the bag of treats longer. Power Chomper will make Ellie drain more power when she bangs on your door, and Wind Skip will make her able to teleport from one hall to another without ever appearing in your window like she usually does. I don't think I have to explain why this character is awful to deal with. The rules that go along with her are far more complicated than any other character. F tier. The next character we have to begrudgingly talk about is Ammo. Ammo starts in the dining room and will slowly wander to your right door. Each camera he travels through will have an eject button with 2 power. Before Ammo reaches your office, you must press the eject button on any camera that has the eject power, which will then send him back to the dining room. Once a camera is out of power, there's no way to get it back. If this wasn't terrible sounding enough, you haven't even heard of his 3 penalties yet. Quiet Ammo will remove his sound cue when he moves. Single Take only allows each room to have 1 eject power instead of 2, and Demon adds Ammo's friend, Demon, who will randomly move around the ejectable cameras. If you eject a camera Demon is on, you will die. I hate this character. Dealing with him can be bad on higher AI values, but since he's nowhere near as bad as some of the other characters in this game, I'm putting him in D tier. And here we are, 29 pages into my script later, and we can talk about the final animatronic in this game, Swagman. Swagman has a pretty interesting mechanic I've actually never seen before. He will randomly wander around the cameras. You will have to stare at him to fill his swag meter up. If it goes all the way down, he will make you put the mask on for a long ass time. However, this mechanic isn't as bad as I'd usually say it is, because you can easily tell which camera Swagman is on because he lights it up. So, what about his 3 penalties? Well, Swagalicious makes him move from camera to camera faster, which can get annoying. Endless Swag will force you to put the mask on for the rest of the night if Swagman gets in, and Eye on the Swag will make Swagman's meter go up slower than usual. Overall, not a bad character, and no penalty that removes the ability to see what camera he's on. C tier. And there we go! That's every single character in Too Many Nights. I love how many there are. It leads to such a new and interesting experience every time you play, and I love it. But now I'd like to mention the general penalties that aren't specific to any character, as there are a few of those as well. Generally, from what I've noticed, it's much smarter to pick the general penalties over the character penalties, as it will be much more likely that they will be easier to deal with. Overtime will make each hour of the night last 2 seconds longer, and you can actually have 2 overtime penalties active at a time. Less power will, as the name suggests, make you start each night with less power, 10% to be exact, and you can have 3 of these penalties. Less room is a penalty that will give you 1 less option when selecting animatronics, and you can have 2 of them. All-Star will make the next enemy you add start at max AI value. Stranger Danger will add a random character you don't already have at a very low AI value, and Midnight Motivation will make all characters' AI value increase at 3 AM. All-Star, Stranger Danger, and Midnight Motivation are probably going to be penalties you always want to avoid, but I personally don't think the other characters are that bad. Next up, I'd like to talk about the characters that you can unlock to play as, because if you remember, each character has different pros and cons for you to choose from. To start, each character has a different amount of lives they'll start you with. Getting jump scared by an animatronic will cause you to lose one of these lives, giving you multiple opportunities if you mess up. And of course, I'll be putting these guys on a tier list as well. The first character you will have by default is Michael. He gives you 3 hearts and has no abilities. He's as basic can get, really. D tier. You also, by default, have 3 other much more interesting characters. The first being Elizabeth. She gives you 4 hearts and forces the enemies to have their AI values increase slower. But as a con, you'll receive half the amount of coins you'd usually get. The low AI value honestly makes her pretty valuable, but of course, never being able to buy anything is never fun. C tier. Evan is the next auto-unlocked character. He gives you 3 hearts, makes all enemies start on a higher AI value, but to compensate, nets you 1.5x more coins, which will be nice for when we talk about shops later in the video. High AI values are never super great, especially if you're dogshit at FNAF games like I am, but overall he is nowhere near the worst character to choose. C tier. Cassidy is the last character you'll unlock by default. She only gives you 1 heart and makes every single enemy start at maximum aggression, and forces you to pick a penalty every single night. She also will never allow you to see shops. Instead, you can use your money to remove penalties and animatronics. I don't care that you can remove things. Having to pick a penalty every night whilst also only having 1 heart is pure AIDS. F tier. Henry is the first character on the list to unlock. However, you can unlock them in pretty much any order you want. Henry is unlocked by beating at least 1 night while using Michael, Elizabeth, Evan, and Cassidy. Something that should be very easy to pull off. He gives you 3 hearts and gives you way more options when picking enemies, penalties, and shop items. However, you will be forced to pick more enemies and more penalties. The last thing you're going to want to do is give yourself more threats. So even though your option pool is bigger, the cons outweigh the pros here a lot. D tier. Gabriel can be unlocked by having 2 penalties active in a run that affect Freddy. He gives you 3 hearts, gives you a guaranteed shop every single night. But as a downside, each character comes with a few of their penalties already added. I'm sure you know what I'm going to say, and a lot of character-specific penalties are horrific. Sure, you may never have to pick a penalty after beating a night, but I really don't care about that as much as getting butt-fucked by character penalties. F tier. Jeremy can be unlocked by getting a power outage on night 3 and beyond and still surviving the night. Generally one of the harder characters to unlock. He gives you 5 hearts. You start the run with 500% power instead of 100%. The nights are shorter than usual, but as a downside, your power carries over from night to night. But don't let that fool you. 500% power is a lot of fucking power, and if you're good at enemy building, you can easily make that last a long time. And 5 hearts is a fuck ton. Easy A tier character. Susie will be unlocked if you die to Chica twice in a single night and then beat that night. She gives 3 hearts. Each enemy starts at max AI value, but you gain 1 life after you beat a night. Now, at first glance, this may sound really bad, but I actually had my second best run ever using Susie, and it's 100% because of that life gain. With characters always on max difficulty, there's no way for them to get harder, so you'll get used to them at their hardest difficulty pretty quickly. Sure, she's not the best, but she definitely isn't as bad as she sounds. B tier. Fritz is unlocked by having 100 or more coins at one time in a single run. He gives you 2 hearts, and your lives are attached to the number of coins you have. To be specific, for every 50 coins you have, that equals 1 heart. Overall, this character is more confusing than it will ever be useful, actively discouraging you from ever buying anything. You're better off just using Michael, as there's no real downside. D tier. Fitzgerald is unlocked by beating night 5 in a run whilst only picking the leftmost enemies and penalties. I actually struggled a bit unlocking this character, so what does he do? Well, you start with 3 hearts, and each enemy and penalty are randomized each night, meaning the 3 enemies you pick on night 1 will be different on night 2, and you can also pay to reroll, as well as getting a shop every single night. This character really just serves as what I'm going to call a challenge character. You would never actually want to bring this character into a legitimate run, and because of that, I'm giving him an F tier. Sally is easily the most unique character out of all of the normal ones, and I'll explain what normal means in a bit. You unlock her by beating a night with both Percy Poodle and Rowan Rat on max AI values. Sally introduces a brand new mechanic, that being the pup pal from Playtime with Percy. It works in the exact same way as in that game, and the best part, your progress on the night is tied to it. No more waiting out the night. You will have to complete the games on the pup pal for the night to end. Again, this goes to serve as more of a challenge character than anything else, as playing Sally will by default make the game much harder. And because of this, I'm giving her F tier. Again, not because she's not a fun character, but because if you're trying to get far in a run, she's not the character for you. And finally, we have the man himself, Scott Cawthon, who is unlocked by completing night 3 with every other character in the game. And of course, since he's the final character, he has the most interesting mechanic. He himself doesn't have any abilities, instead letting you pick the pros and cons from every other character in the game, allowing you to mix and match your favorite pieces from other characters. You don't need me to tell you that Scott is a broken character. I'm pretty sure you can figure that out. Easy S tier. And boom, that's every single playable character in Too Many Nights. So now we can start talking about the items that can be bought in the shop. I won't be going over each and every one since there are literally a fuck ton to talk about, and this video is already long enough. But I do want to talk about some of the best ones to look out for. Early Out is an item that will make each night 2 seconds shorter. More Power will start each night with 10% more power. More Room will give you more options when picking animatronics. The Empress will give you 1 life and give you more options when picking animatronics. The Emperor will decrease every animatronic's AI value by 2. The Chariot will have you start each night with 15% more power. The Hanged Man will remove 2 random penalties you have activated. Death removes a random enemy. The Moon makes each hour 3 seconds shorter. Fritz Children's Bible will make items you can't afford never show up in shops, and Sparked will make sparks appear randomly on cameras, and touching them will increase your power. Those are all of the yummy mashed potatoes in my belly items that I like to look out for in the shop. Again, there are a lot more, but I think it would just be really boring to go over all of them. But there you go. That's everything you need to know, and as far as I'm aware, everything that Too Many Nights has to offer. I would highly recommend you give this game a try. It is some of the most fun I've ever had since starting this channel, and I actually plan on doing some Too Many Nights streams here on this channel. If that's something you're interested, let me know. Also, if you were interested, Too Many Nights is actually getting a version 2.1, and it's being worked on as I'm writing this. I'm super excited to see what it has to offer once it's fully released. This game is so incredibly unique and combines 2 of my favorite game genres of all time into one amazing game. The art style is unique, the community input is fantastic, and of course, the gameplay and gameplay loop are impeccable. Roblox horror games, something that is pretty atypical for this channel. In fact, I've only talked about Roblox horror games twice on this channel before, one video being about Rainbow Friends and the other about Pressure. However, recently I've been getting suggested a couple Roblox FNAF games to play. I always knew there were FNAF games on Roblox. In fact, there's a couple of Roblox games that place really high on the official max mode list. Of course, I did always intend on getting around to playing these games, and if you follow Dxtr Black, you'll see that I have played a couple, and the game that we're covering here today is one of those games. A reimagining of one of the most hated official Five Nights at Freddy's games of all time, fixing all of its problems and introducing several new mechanics that make the game feel fresh, while also looking so graphically impressive you'd be surprised to hear it was even made in Roblox at all. So join me today as we dive into the world of Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined. In terms of the game's overall story, not a whole lot has changed. At least, that is up until the end. We'll obviously talk about that later, so if you were hoping for a massive lore dump, hate to break it to you, it's pretty much just the official lore with a few changes. However, it's still told very well. But hold up, guys. I need to take a moment to tell you that this video is sponsored by me, once again in collaboration with Makeship. The folks over at Makeship and I have been talking about getting our own community Skags plushie made. That's this little demon guy's name in case you weren't aware. And we're starting a petition for the potential for this plushie to be made, and that petition starts today. From the moment this video goes up, we have 10 days for 200 unique people to donate $2 to the petition in order to prove to Makeship that this is actually something we're looking for. Here's some of the mock-up art of what the plushie could look like. We decided to make it obviously the little demon man, and we even put it in the funny little Five Nights at Freddy's plushie style, which I think you guys and me could really relate to, really like. It looks awesome. So if this is something you want to see to be able to happen, to have your own little Skags plush, then I'd highly recommend you go to the link in the description below and go ahead and donate $2 to the petition to allow us to actually start the design process for this plushie. Thank you guys so much for all the support. I appreciate it a lot. Let's get back to the video. Night 1 starts the way most do. You get a phone call from the phone guy, Ryan. Ryan gives us the basic rundown of what's going on, what we're doing, and how to do it. So I suppose that means it's also my turn to do the same for you. Except I'll throw in a couple dick jokes along the way, and then after the video is over, you could read the comments to find the few comedy police who say something along the lines of, "Gah, I was really liking this video, but the amount of inappropriate jokes really just took me out of it." I'm glad it took you out of it. Us normal people who aren't afraid to laugh at stupid jokes are going to continue to have fun. Keep seething. To start, there are many things that have stayed the same. Of course, the office layout is pretty much identical, 2 vents to the right and left of you, and a big open hallway in front. The camera setup has been left exactly the same as well, so at least we don't have to relearn the basics. What is different about the office, however, is the breaker box, which can be found behind you. Opening it, we can find breakers to several of the cameras around the map, and I'll explain why this is important a bit later. One thing I do want to point out right now, though, is why we whip around at breakneck speed. Seriously, look at how violent this animation is. Calm down, buddy. You're gonna give yourself whiplash. Dude, why the fuck does dude move so much? He turns around, he fucking whips. Look at him. Fuck, it ain't that deep, bro. Anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is your flashlight, as that has also been changed slightly. To start, you'll notice there is no longer a battery life to your flashlight. So you may be wondering how Balloon Boy is supposed to work without his integral mechanic. Well, hold your dick, little spastic. You're getting way too far ahead of yourself. Let's slow it down and take this little by little. Your flashlight is now used to flash not only the hallway, but the 2 vents as well, as now the vents don't have their own dedicated button. Before we continue on, there's also one little thing I do want to point out about your office I thought was funny. If you take a look at the clock on your desk, you'll see a coffee mug is blocking the second set of digits, probably so that the developers didn't have to actually program the clock ticking second by second. This literally plays no role in importance in the entirety of the game. I just think it's fun to see the way devs are able to cut corners sometimes. Anyways, moving on to the first threat this night introduces, those being Toy Chica and Toy Bonnie. Oh shit, damn. Oh, damn, mama. Sorry. Boing. They work the exact same way they do in the original with some minor tweaks. For one, if you weren't aware, let me give you a quick fun fact about Five Nights at Freddy's 2. If you dig through the game files, you'll be able to find an unused asset for Toy Chica. It's never seen throughout the game and was originally intended to be used to allow her to glide across your office like Toy Bonnie does. It's even completely coded in, but it's never called in the actual game. Well, Reimagined brings this back, and in a big way. Both Bonnie and Chica will enter your office after being in your vents. However, unlike the original, where you can see both Toy Bonnie and Toy Chica staring at you in the vents, in Reimagined, they instead chose to bolt through your vents at the speed of sound, giving you no time to see them in your vent. When you hear them coming, you have to put the mask on fast. Like, I'm talking fast as shit. These guys aren't playing around at all. If they get their hands on you, they're gonna rock your world. I'm talking tie your own dick into a noose and make you hang yourself with it. Ooh. God, no, not that. I meant to fucking put the mask on, bro. I meant to put the mask on. That jump scare was insane, by the way. Seriously, I'm probably not going to get around to showing you each of these jump scare animations, but you should go check them all out because these animations are clean as fuck. This entire game looks super clean. Keep in mind, this is Roblox. It is so impressive how good this game really looks. Anyways, moving on to talking about the game. More specifically, Night 2 and the new threats it introduces. Hold up, Dexter. What about the marionette? Does she not become active on this night? No, dear viewer. No, she doesn't. In fact, the marionette is completely absent from this game. That's right, FNAF 2 Reimagined removed the music box mechanic from this game entirely. So, with my dick as hard as a rock from getting that information delivered to me, let's happily heel click our way into Night 2. Night 2 only introduces one new threat, but it's a big one. Withered Foxy. Now, I want you to pause real quick. I promise you, he is nowhere near as carpal tunnel inducing as he is in the original. In the original, Withered Foxy would appear in your hallway. You'd have to spam your control key to flash your light at him until he disappears. Every time you'd flash, an invisible value would increase by 1, and when it reached 20, he would go away.
He also showed up frequently as fuck, making him the second most annoying character in the entire game, right after Toy Bonnie. So, how does Reimagine fix him? Well, he actually has two different mechanics. The first still has him enter your hallway. He'll make a breathing sound cue when he does. All you have to do is hold the light on him for a little bit and he'll leave. No spamming required. However, if you hear this sound cue and for some reason don't see him in your hallway, that means he's either in camera 1, 2, 3, or 4. You will have to find which camera he's in and use your flash beacon, which, by the way, is just a beam of light I've chosen not to mention so far. When you do, he'll fuck right off. Perfect. Something interesting about the phone call on night 2 is that Ryan called us in the first place. At the end of the night 1 phone call, he said he wouldn't be calling us again because the boss, presumably William Afton, is breathing down his neck. So getting a call on night 2 is surprising. He said he saw William inputting new parts into the old robots. He also tells us that these old models are very aggressive, which is interesting because usually the phone guys in these games will refuse to tell us anything about what's going on. Night 3 introduces two new threats, those being Mangle and Withered Freddy. Mangle is the easiest to understand, so let's start with her. She follows a very basic path, starting at the prize corner and making her way into your hallway. From there, she'll just crawl across the ceiling into your office rather than entering the right vent like in the original. Of course, all you need to do is put the mask on and it's problem solved. Now, on to Withered Freddy, who is the second reason to look at your cameras aside from Withered Foxy. Freddy is not fooled by the mask, something that you may find interesting given the fact he is in the original. And I have a theory as to why he is this way. We know William is using new parts on the old characters, which is why they're moving. Well, Toy Freddy never activates throughout this game. He literally has no mechanics. So my theory is that William is using parts from Toy Freddy to make Withered Freddy move around. For what reason? That I don't have an answer to. Anyways, what does Freddy actually do? Well, he begins in the main room and will slowly walk throughout the building to your office. Since he's an older model like Foxy, he's very sensitive to light, so the flash beacon will push him back a camera. Every time he moves, he'll make a very noticeable sound cue, making it easy to keep track of him. Overall, a mechanic I'm not usually a huge fan of, but it does get some brownie points for having a sound cue associated with it, I suppose. It's also during the night 3 phone call we learn why Henry hasn't been showing up for work. Apparently his daughter died. Wow. Who would have thought? I wonder who could have possibly done that. Anyways, snooze fest bitches, night 4 time it is. Introducing the final two characters this game has to offer, Withered Bonnie and Withered Chica. Both do the exact same thing, but just attack different sides of your office. Bonnie will attack your left vent and Chica will attack your right. They're just like their toy variants with one key difference. They're not affected by your mask. So how do you deal with them? Well, let's be adults and use context clues like grown-ups. Both Withered Freddy and Withered Foxy are sensitive to light. So, given the fact that Bonnie and Chica are also both withered animatronics, it's safe to say they'd be sensitive to light too. So, when you hear them crawling in your vent, which it does have a different sound cue to the toys coming through your vent, thankfully, all you have to do is hold your flashlight on that vent until they arrive. Instead of just leaving, they will actually throw you into a Five Nights at Candy's 3 style minigame, where they will jump around your office and you'll have to keep your light held on them until they eventually run away like little piss babies. Night 4's phone call mentions that the back room is starting to smell really bad, like there's something rotting back there. Now, I'm no genius, believe it or not. I do talk about Five Nights at Freddy's for a living, but I'm gonna guess that that's because there's 5 dead children back there. Just a hunch, but I'm willing to bet I'm probably correct. Night 5 adds nothing new. However, I do want to use this time to talk about your breaker, since I haven't really done that yet. Occasionally, one of your cameras has the chance to randomly break and go out. When it does, all you have to do is turn around and reboot whichever camera went out. Super simple, and in all honesty, throughout my entire playthrough, which by the way you can see over on my second channel, Dxtr Black, I actually rarely ever had this happen to me. And of course, another pretty important thing to bring up is the lack of characters in this game. Notably, Balloon Boy, the Marionette, Withered Golden Freddy, and Toy Freddy are completely absent and have no mechanics. And I actually think that the reasoning for this makes sense, if my reasoning is correct, that is. So, many of the characters in the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 just do literally the exact same thing. Tell me what the difference between Toy Freddy and Withered Freddy are. Spoiler alert, there is no difference. In fact, the toy animatronics are actually disabled on nights 3 and 4 to instead be completely replaced by the Withereds. They serve no interesting purpose at all. You don't need Balloon Boy since there's no flashlight battery. The marionette doesn't make sense since this game came up with a much better way to force you to look at the cameras. And Withered Golden Freddy isn't present for a lore reason, which we'll be talking about in a bit. And by a bit, I mean right now. After completing Night 5, we get this cutscene.
Michael, William just pulled into the parking lot. You need to get out of there now. Don't even bother with the parts and service room anymore. Just get the hell out. He knows you're in the middle of your shift. There's no other reason he would be there than to... Just get out. I'm waiting outside in my car right now. Let's get into the village. I called the police, but they won't be here for a while. This place is in the middle of nowhere. Wait. He's messing with something on the side of the building. Hold on.
Calm down. I'm not going to hurt you. He's afraid of me. He won't follow you in here even if he could.
How in the world are you talking to me?
What do you mean? I'm right here, aren't I?
You're not human. How could you talk to me?
I'm not human? Look at my hands right here. I'm talking to you right now.
But, never mind. Oh, this is insane. Who are you?
My name is Charlotte.
What the hell happened here?
He hurt us really bad. I was bleeding here, then I fell asleep. I can't move anymore.
You were bleeding?
Yes, I was bleeding right here, I think. After that, I don't remember much. Then I woke up.
Do you remember anybody else here with you?
My friends were here. He hurt them too. I tried to stop him, but the more I cried, the more it hurt. I just wanted them to be safe.
I'm sorry. You said he hurt us. Who is he?
You know who he is.
I believe I do. He's here right now. William.
I know that. He won't come in here anymore. He is afraid of me and my friends.
Are your friends the ones out there right now?
Yes, but they're confused and angry. They're looking for the one who did this to them.
Why are they so aggressive to me? I would never.
William was masked when he hurt us. They don't know who to blame. It doesn't help that you're wearing that uniform.
Why don't you just tell them?
It's not that easy. I can't talk to them the same way I can talk to you. They won't listen to me. I think they're still in shock.
How do you know the truth?
My father knew William. They were business partners. I never thought he would hurt us. I trusted him.
Do you really believe you're still human?
I don't feel any different. I can still see my hands and they look like my own. I just feel a little cramped. If I think about it too much, I'll go mad.
Where did William hide you and your friends after he hurt you?
I don't know. As I said, I fell asleep after he hit me.
Is there any way I can help you or your friends? Help you move on?
Burn this place to the ground.
But
It's the only way to help my friends. They'll get nothing from revenge. It'll only make them more confused.
okay, I can help you. Wait, one more thing.
Yes?
I haven't heard William in a couple of minutes. What is he doing right now?
Hiding, like a coward, waiting for me to kill you. He thinks I'm like the others. He believes that when my friends inevitably kill either you or Ryan, they'll get the closure they need to leave their bodies. It's a pipe dream, but his last resort. He's been trying to get us out for days now without destroying the characters.
Your father. You said he and William were business partners. His name is Henry, right?
Yes, his name is Henry. Please tell me he's alright.
I don't know. He's been looking for you. He filed a missing persons report to the police and he hasn't come into work for a week.
I don't want him to see me like this.
He'll find out the truth sooner or later. Okay, I think I'm ready.
Thank you for this. Break those pipes in the kitchen and you'll release flammable gas into the building. Do you have a lighter?
Of course.
William is hiding in the bathroom right now, waiting for you to walk down the hallway. Don't worry, my friends will find him shortly. They're relentless, as you would know. He doesn't have the slightest clue how aggressive they've gotten. It won't be pretty.
He'll get what he deserves.
That he will. Quiet. Listen. Quick, now's your chance. Let this place just become a bad memory.
So, we set William ablaze in typical FNAF fashion, and FNAF 2 Reimagined comes to a close. Kind of. When this game first came out, that is where the main story ended. However, months after, a DLC was released that introduced a sixth night. And that night is something so unique, I've only seen something like it once before.
Michael, you have a calling. Your efforts to save them, how selfless, have failed. They're still here with me. Charlotte, Oliver, Lucas, Ethan, and Zoe. I still remember their screams like it was yesterday. And they'll die again, and again, and again. Unless you come back to me and finish what you started. You're going to wish you never defied me.
Night 6 has us re-enter the restaurant after it burned down. We have one final task to complete, saving all of the children. This night reminds me heavily of the entire gameplay loop of A Shadow over Freddy's, mainly in the way you move around, and the only threat present. As you could have probably been able to tell from the cutscene, William, of course, didn't die from that fire. William will randomly wander around the building. When you run into him, you will have to do something. I literally have no fucking idea what it is you have to do, though. I was never able to actually fully understand it. I got some comments from viewers over on Dxtr Black, because apparently I was just completely fucking wrong. I know it has something to do with your flash burst, which you only have 3 of. Something along the lines of, when you see William, flash him? Kind of. Except it doesn't ever work. And even if you follow him into the next room he went into to try and flash him then, he'll just kill you instantly? I literally have no idea. Maybe I'm just retarded. Anyways, how do you actually save the kids? Well, behind the stage, you'll find a crank. You will use this crank to muff up all of the withered animatronics around the building, who are now barely able to move. Each room that one of these characters are in are what's known as a safe room, meaning that William will not be able to catch you there. And if you have William's attention from him spotting you, you will lose said attention if you enter one of these safe rooms. Using these safe rooms is what I used while playing this game since I was too stupid to understand what I was actually supposed to do. Freddy's corpse is located in the kitchen, Bonnie is in the bathroom, Foxy is in some fucking room. I actually have no idea what the name of this room he's in is called, and Chica is in one of the party rooms. The big opening to the hallway is blocked off, so you'll have to do a pretty big loop around the building in order to get them all. When you go to use the crank on each of the animatronics, a long animation plays, and it's during these animations you can really see how scared these characters appear to be, really hitting home the fact that even though these characters are scary, they are still possessed by children, and you can really see the fear from them during these cutscenes, especially in Foxy's cutscene, which I feel shows how scared they are the most. After saving all the kids, you can go to the back room to save Golden Freddy, only for this to happen.
I gotta give you credit. I didn't think you'd make it this far, Michael.
Rotten hell.
Oh, I won't be going to hell. I'm going to watch the light leave your eyes, just as I did with them.
But why? What did they ever do to you? They're children.
She's awake. Are you down for good, Michael? You never give up. That's what I liked about you. Go ahead. Free her. That's what you want so bad, right?
I want you dead. That's what I want.
Oh, Michael. You never were a good listener.
And with that, that's truly where Five Nights at Freddy's 2 Reimagined comes to a close. A borderline perfect recreation of one of the community's most hated official FNAF titles. But now we have to ask the question, was a remake like this necessary? Did we really need someone to change the original game? I think the answer to that question is a resounding yes. Out of all of the official FNAF games, even though FNAF 2 isn't my least favorite, I can totally agree that it is the most boring and, in my opinion, the most uninspired. I mean, FNAF 2 only released 3 months after the first. That is not a lot of time in development for a game of any degree, and I think it really shows. From reusing mechanics from other characters to artificially inflate the roster, to having mechanics so utterly boring and bullshit like the music box in Withered Foxy, I truly think it's only fair to say that this game did Five Nights at Freddy's 2 better than Five Nights at Freddy's 2 ever could itself. Not only does this game look better, it plays better, sounds better, and is more enjoyable to play overall. Nothing feels too RNG based, and each character's mechanics are solid and unique enough. One of my biggest issues with the original Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the fact that there is only one vent noise, but there are around 14 different instances where a vent noise plays, making the entire night a confusing, overstimulating mess. Of course, another very common problem people have with Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is the RNG. Of course, technically speaking, it can be beaten with no RNG, but that requires you to have a fuck ton of timers and a bunch of other bullshit, and normal people probably aren't going to be doing all that. IP crossovers is something that happens quite often in different forms of media, and Five Nights at Freddy's is no exception. We've seen classics such as Five Nights at Sonic's and Five Nights at Wario's. However, I'm sure you can think of many other crossovers this massive genre has. I've recently learned about a FNAF game that has a crossover with another massive horror piece of media, and I'm very excited to share with you my experience with said game today. This game is very cool and incredibly difficult, so strap in and join me today as we dive into the world of SCP: The Endurance. When I first saw this game, I was really concerned that it was going to lean more into being a game like SCP Containment Breach instead of Five Nights at Freddy's. But luckily for me, I'm not going to have to bust through randomly generated rooms. Maybe in another video, I'll be forced to do that. But for now, yes, this game does follow the typical Five Nights at Freddy's formula. In SCP: The Endurance, we play as a Class D personnel. For those of you unfamiliar with SCP, Class D personnel are the lowest level of individuals of the SCP Foundation, consisting mostly of death row inmates. They usually live in solitary confinement cells and are often tasked with doing very dangerous things that could easily get them killed. And of course, this game has us do just that. The game opens to an infomercial designed for these Class D personnel, offering all of them the chance for some major benefits if they take part in the Endurance program, which by the way is slang for kill yourself. We've all seen situations like this before in media, and it's honestly one of my favorite story structures, so I was pretty excited when I first saw this. The task we have to complete, of course, is surviving 6 nights while watching over a section of the facility, while 8 monsters try and mush up your insides and make a nice little inside soup. We obviously don't want that to happen, so what tools do we have at our disposal to prevent such a catastrophe from happening? Well, let's start with stuff you'll always be using that isn't character specific. To your right, you have a door that can be closed. Pretty standard FNAF stuff. The longer the door is closed, the more power it will consume. In front of you, there is a hallway that you can flash, exactly like FNAF 2, except this time around, when something is in the hallway, the most ear-grating PTSD-inducing sound of all time doesn't play. Of course, there's the camera system, which does something that makes my dick hurt when I see it. That being that the camera has multiple levels for you to look at. There's nothing wrong with this mechanic, by the way, just thought I'd mention how it makes me want to shit out my own organs. And finally, you can turn off the power to both your cameras and the entire building. The reasons for doing both of these things will become important later, so for now, just don't worry about it. Actually, that's a lie. Nothing actually happens on night 1 as it's just introductory, so I actually want to take this time to talk about the fucked up shit that is this game's power supply. This game drains power so fast, it isn't even funny. This is to encourage you to shut off essential systems to save on that power, because if you don't, there is literally zero chance you will survive the later nights. Inside of the cameras, you have the ability to turn off your ventilation. This game takes place underground, so if it's off for too long, you'll just suffocate and die. But it will make your power drain slightly slower, and in a game where you'll be completing each night with single-digit power integers, that is huge. Obviously, that's also where shutting off your cameras comes into play, as that will also save some power for you. However, booting up the cameras does take about 3 seconds, and with how brutal this game gets with character speed on later nights, I promise you that 3 seconds is a lot of time to wait. However, shutting off the cameras will also be essential to actually surviving the nights in this game. Now is the time I should mention how you need to start each night, as it's not as simple as just listening to the phone call. Each night you will have to boot up the computer for the first time by using a password. This password is randomly generated each time you start up a night. So if you die on night 4, for example, when you retry night 4, the password will change yet again.
Each night starts with you booting up the PC and typing in the password. I highly recommend that you Control A, Control C, and Control V the password at the start of the night as well, because if either you or something else shuts off the power to the facility and you have to turn it back on, you will have to re-enter this password. So being able to copy and paste it is obviously a big time saver. We also have access to an SCP library where we can learn and read about the SCPs that we'll be encountering. Most of these entries are mainly for lore reasons, and in all honesty, I don't have a lot of interest in diving into the behaviors of each character, as it's literally pretty much just a wiki page. So I probably won't be doing that much in this video. I'm imagining most of you who are watching my channel frequently also probably know at least a little bit about SCPs anyways. Again, as I said, Night 1 doesn't actually have any threats. You just get taught by the phone guy, Ronald, how to do everything you need to do, and that's about it. But now we can hop into Night 2. And holy shit, this game goes from 0 to 80 really fucking fast. But hold up guys, I want to take a little break here to tell you that this video is sponsored by me. For those of you who didn't know, I have channel memberships. I would never ask anyone to do this as I don't even have any interesting perks attached, but if you really enjoy what I do and would like to support me a little bit extra, that's a great way to do it. Also, if you'd like to actually get something for your money in return, I have a merch store with some designs I commissioned from a fan, the same fan who actually drew these new character PNGs. So if you'd like to have my silly little demon character on your clothes, then that's a great place to go do that. And hey, if enough people end up liking that stuff, I will 100% get some more created in the future, and maybe even commission some more fan artists for some uniqueness in art styles. You can find the link to that in the description of this video. Sorry for the interruption, let's talk about the bullshit that this game has to offer. Night 2 introduces 5 characters. That is over half the fucking roster on Night 2. I'm going to start with the easiest characters and work my way to the hardest. Strap in because this is going to get interesting. By far, the easiest character to deal with in my opinion is SCP-860-2, who I will just be referring to as SCP-860. 860 is the only character that uses your door. It will appear outside of the door far away in the trees. Which, by the way, side note, I don't really know why there are trees outside of this door. We are underground, but whatever. Throughout the night, it will approach your door until it is right up next to it. When it is, all you have to do is close the door and wait to hear it run away. If this door is closed for too long, the power to the building will be shut off and you will have to completely reboot, re-entering the password to the computer and all. I believe this is the easiest character simply because of how infrequently he attacks in comparison to the other characters. You may see him 5 or 6 times a night, which is a godsend compared to some of the other assholes we'll be talking about in a bit. The next easiest character in my opinion is SCP-066. 066 is just a giant pile of meat with some eyeballs. 066 by itself will not actually be able to end your runs. Instead, it cosplays as Satan. It will attack from the vent on your ceiling. At random times, you may see the vent on your ceiling open up. When you see this, you will have to simply click the vent to close it, and that's all. If you leave it open for too long, 066 will drop into your office and stay there for the rest of the night. While there, it will slowly increase the AI values of all of the other characters, which, by the way, has the chance to increase their AI values over the max 20, which, yes, will still make them harder. It also has the random chance to play sounds at 140 decibels, so just really don't let him into your office. You may be wondering why I've chosen to call 066 more difficult than 860, despite the fact that all you have to do is mindlessly click when you hear a noise. Well, that's because 066 is probably the fastest character in the entire game. On later nights, you will have less than 2 seconds to react and close the vent. And of course, it itself doesn't kill you. The ramping AI of the other characters probably will. Of course, that's unless you're Frogger and beat the 820 mode with 066 in the office the entire night. That guy's a madman. Next, we'll talk about SCP-096, arguably one of the most popular SCPs of all time. SCP-096 has the chance to spawn literally anywhere in the entire building, whether that be on any of the cameras or even directly in your office. Wherever it happens to be, all you have to do is stop looking at it. If it's in your office, flip up and down the camera quickly. If it's in the camera, either switch cameras or pull the camera down. While yes, 096 is not a problem by itself, it's in combination with how hectic and stressful the rest of the game gets, which is the reason I think 096 is as annoying and difficult as it is. SCP-106 is the next degenerate I'd like to talk about. This is the pocket dimension asshole, by the way, if you were curious. Occasionally, you will both hear and see 106 in your office. When you do, you'll have to put on the mask. Oh yeah, you have a mask, by the way. I know I forgot to mention that. I just wanted to keep you on your toes. And I totally didn't just forget it existed until I started talking about 106. So shut up. If you don't put the mask on fast enough, it appears one of two things could happen. I think. Maybe it's every time, but I've seen this not happen to some people on deaths to 106 multiple times. When you become caught by 106, it has a chance to teleport you to a pocket dimension. We're in the fucking guy that we're in the guy that does fucking genjutsu, aren't we? Oh my. What the fuck? What? Yo! This is sick as fuck. Oh, he dead. Oh, he dead. Where the game is put into a 3D environment where you have to complete some parkour across some rocks to escape. If you do manage to escape, then congrats, you get to continue the night. But of course, chances are you'll have spent too long in the pocket dimension that you'll probably die upon coming back. This pocket dimension also has some interesting secrets by itself, but I'll be talking about that a bit later in the video. Sitting there doing nothing in the mask is obviously not something you're going to want to be doing while being ass pounded by 7 other characters. So that puts 106 pretty high up on the difficulty chart in my eyes. SCP-173 is by far the most grueling and annoying character in this entire game. He acts as this game's main reason for using the cameras, which also really sucks because in most cases you'd prefer to have your cameras off just because of how horrifically quickly the power drains. 173 will slowly move throughout the building until it gets to your vent. You may notice to your left a giant vent is open on the wall. Yeah, if he gets there, you're dead. So, how do you stop him? Well, by staring at him on the cameras, of course. 173 has this super awesome and totally not penis-tearing attribute where it will never move backwards and only forwards. So you really have to make sure you have your eyes on this thing the entire night. However, I should mention that once 173 gets to your office, that it's not an immediate game over. Oh, hey, I'm not blinking. I am not blinking and I'm looking right at you. Looking right at you. There's actually 2 phases it will have to get through before it can slither inside of you like one of those parasites that will swim up your urethra if you piss in a gross lake. I don't know. In true 173 fashion, if you're looking at him, he won't move. But if you open the cameras, turn to the side to deal with 860 and the door, or anything else that blocks your view of 173, it will move through its phases before blowing up your anus. Again, 173 is easily the most difficult character throughout this entire game, only being rivaled by one other asshole who we'll talk about later. But for now, if you can deal with all of that bullshit combined, you will successfully beat Night 2. Yeah? Did you forget we were only talking about Night 2? Yeah, there's still 4 more of these, so strap in. Night 3 introduces one new threat. Nah, I'm just fucking with you. It introduces the remaining 3 because fuck you. Those characters being SCP-049, SCP-1048, and SCP-079. Only one of these characters is actually a big issue, so let's talk about the less annoying 2 first. Let's start with what I feel is the easiest to deal with of these 3, SCP-1048. It's just a teddy bear. But a teddy bear that can move, to be fair. It takes advantage of your hallway. Appearing in it throughout the night, it will try to enter your office and murder the shit out of you. All you have to do is keep your flashlight on him to push him backwards. Not hard at all, just another power waster of a character. SCP-049 is the Plague Doctor, and I honestly wish I had the plague while playing this game so that I had a good excuse to just kill myself rather than continuing. 049 makes use of the 2 lockable doors on the bottom layer of the cameras. You can only lock one of these doors at a time, and thankfully doing so doesn't waste any power, and they don't unlock if the PC is shut off. If you see 049 at either door, simply lock it and it'll be no problem. The actual difficulty of 049 just comes in the likelihood that you will forget he even exists, and only remember once you find him in your office. And finally, the second most difficult character in SCP the Endurance is SCP-079. This guy is just a little quirky fella, really. He's just a bored little guy that really wants to play tic-tac-toe with you. What is this?
What is that? Yes, I'm serious. There is a special panel to the left of your office. Throughout the night, 079 will play games of tic-tac-toe with you. Now, you may be a little inclined to completely pummel this stupid fucking computer's ass while playing this game with it. But I would actually advise against that, as if you lose too many games or win too many games against it, it'll get pissed off and start fucking with your lights and doors, which will probably end up leading to a death. So it's actually the best practice to just constantly draw against 079 every time you play. And there you have it. That is every single character in SCP The Endurance and how they work, all introduced on the third night. And it's only going to continue to get more and more soul-sucking as your playthrough goes on. I'm gonna be completely honest with you guys. I couldn't complete Night 5. I put in a lot of attempts, but as I've mentioned multiple times in the past, I'm very bad at FNAF games, and I just couldn't beat it. I'm sure if I continued to pour in attempts that eventually I would complete it, as I did get to 5 AM a decent handful of times. I still have no desires to spend hours trying. I'd much prefer to just talk about it. After completing Night 5, we get the special meal we were mentioned to get at the beginning of the game in the infomercial. But guess what? We're still depressed because we're still in solitary confinement, and I'm about to tear my hair out, except I've already torn all the hair out of my head, so you'll have to use your imagination to figure out where I'm tearing the rest of my hair from. However, we're not done talking about this game quite yet, as there still are some cool things that it has to offer. Mainly, now is the time I want to talk about SCP-106, or Larry's Pocket Dimension, and how important it is for unlocking both Night 6 and this game's secret ending. The first step to unlocking the secret ending is finding the 3 burnt pages in Larry's Pocket Dimension. There are skeletons all around this dimension, and every time you enter, a piece of a burnt page will appear next to one of them, which, yes, means you will have to go into his pocket dimension multiple times to acquire them all. The platforming in this game does make me want to skin a puppy alive, but hey, it's a FNAF game, not a platformer, so I guess that means something. Oh, and you want to know the best part? The pocket dimensions are totally random, so you could get the pocket dimension to spawn the same page multiple times, which means in theory it could take hours for you to ever be able to collect all 3. And you can't do the secret ending until you get all 3 of them, even though the code on it doesn't change. So that's realistically probably the worst part of this entire game. Spoiler alert, FNAF fans aren't a super huge fan of RNG. Who would have thought? Once you get all 3 pages and escape, you will be able to put them together in your office to reveal the code PGF4B. Typing this code into the computer instead of the one on the sticky notes will unlock Night 6. Night 6 is where you can get the secret ending. Not only is Night 6 hard as fuck, but getting the secret ending only makes Night 6 even harder. Once in Night 6, you will want to once again type in the burnt note code PGF4B. After it boots, you'll want to type in the command run power manager. This will give you a special tab on your second monitor that you can use to control all of the power in the building. This is where the secret ending makes Night 6 very hard. Obviously, Night 6 by itself is already difficult, having several threats to keep track of and having to react very quickly to all of them. However, the additional tasks this secret ending requires only serves to add more confusion and stress to your plate. In this new Power Manager menu, you will be able to click through every room of every floor in the facility. It looks a lot more confusing than it really is. The only sections that matter are the rooms that contain the elevators. You'll have to go to each elevator room and turn the power to each of them on by manually typing in codes. This section heavily reminds me of some of the tasks you're required to do in Banshee, another FNAF game I've covered on this channel. You should definitely watch that video after this one if you haven't already, by the way. This is the main reason I think this secret ending is so stressful. There is already so much bullshit happening at the same time that to add in precision typing on top of that really makes for a super tense experience. And while no, I never did it myself, I applaud anyone who was actually able to pull this insane shit off. After turning on the power to each elevator floor, our character will actually speak.
It worked! I can finally get the hell out of here!
Which is where I learned that we play as a female throughout this game. Not that that really matters, just something I wasn't expecting. We get a final cutscene of our inmate leaving the building, avoiding all the characters she'd been going up against thus far, and escaping the facility.
only to find out that she was right in the sights of an SCP worker's gun. We never get to see if the bullet hits her, but we can only hope it didn't and that she was finally able to escape. But don't click off the video yet, you little piece of shit. I see you checking how much longer there is, trying to fuck up my retention. Stop it! You stop it! Naughty! Anyways, I've still got something else I want to talk about in this game that I think is really cool. So, it's becoming more and more common for FNAF games to integrate Game Jolt achievements. I think that's awesome. I think achievement hunting is super cool. But something I notice about a lot of these FNAF game achievements is that they're boring. Oh, beat night 1, beat night 5, beat night 6, beat all 20 mode. Stuff you would imagine people are already doing, which I feel makes them not feel like achievements a lot of the time. SCP The Endurance also has these achievements, except I've noticed that it also has a lot of super fun ones. So I'd like to dedicate this section to talking about those achievements. The first achievement I want to mention is called Seriously How. It can be achieved by dying on night 1. You may be wondering how that's even possible, considering there are no characters active and you have unlimited power. Well, there still is one way to kill yourself during night 1, and that's by turning off the ventilation and suffocating yourself. If you do that, ta-da! You've got yourself an achievement. It's a goofy one, yes, but I still think it's pretty cool. The next achievement I want to mention is called Ah, There You Are. This achievement can be obtained by allowing SCP-1048 to completely enter your office. Once he does, if you spam click his nose enough, you'll get this achievement. Yes, quite a few of these are pretty silly by the way, but that's why I like them. The next achievement is called Oh Whoa, What's This? Hey, shut up. I just told you they were silly. This one can be achieved by simply using the command commands or help in the terminal. You're a femboy, aren't you? Don't lie. I said oh whoa and I saw your little stupid ass fucking light up, freak. The next interesting achievement is called One Step Forward, Two Steps Back, and can be achieved by collecting one of the burnt notes in 106's pocket dimension and proceeding to fall out of the world and die. Interesting that they chose to call that an achievement, considering you didn't actually achieve anything at all. There are also two achievements that can be incredibly difficult to achieve. The first of which is called Catch Me If You Can. You get this achievement by surviving the night after aggroing SCP-096, which isn't necessarily too hard if you aggro him right at the end of the night, but you also have to hope that you can find him right at the end of the night. The other, much more difficult achievement is Staring Contest. This one is ass, I can't even lie to you. You have to let SCP-173 into your office for at least one entire hour of the night, so 1 minute, real time. This is disgusting, because you literally can't look away from him. And not looking away from him for a minute will require a good deal of luck to not get butt banged. There's also a really silly achievement called L+ ratio, wherein you complete night 3 without ever looking at the cameras, which I'm not going to lie, just sounds like complete hell. And finally, the last achievement in the game which I would actually say is worthy of getting a trophy is called My Goals Are Beyond Your Understanding, which is achieved on night 6 if you turn off every single light in the power manager, then shut off literally everything in the office that you can, leaving you completely vulnerable in literally every way possible. Doing this isn't hard. Doing this on night 6 definitely is. But as far as I'm aware, that's all SCP The Endurance has to offer. Overall, I think this game is incredibly solid. It was in development by one person for over 8 years, and I think it turned out great. Yes, it's really hard. Yes, I think the burnt notes being RNG is bullshit. And yes, I think the game giving you little to no hints for anything in the game is pretty ass. Overall, I still think this experience was a good one. I think this is probably one of the most high-quality FNAF games I've seen in terms of how much dedication was poured into it, and I highly recommend you guys go and give it a try.
When you think of the best FNAF games, what games do you think of? What are your top 5 in terms of quality alone? I'm willing to bet that a lot of people share some of the same entries, and I'm willing to bet that the game we'll be talking about today is at the top of some of your lists, because it's definitely at the top of mine. The Glitched Attraction is a FNAF fan game developed by two 18-year-old developers alone. The reason I mention their age is because of how impressive this game really is, and how impressive it is that only 2 brand new adults managed to design it themselves. When I first learned how old these guys were, I was shocked. The Glitched Attraction is one of the best FNAF games I've ever played. I know a few of you watch my content to get suggestions for FNAF games to play, and for those of you that do not pass this one up. It is one of the most high quality experiences of all time. Let's not waste any more time and hop into the Glitched Attraction, FNAF's most high quality FNAF game ever made. Our game begins with us getting a text from a friend asking us to come check out the new Fazbear escape room attraction, and they tell us to bring all of our things along with us. A request that is definitely weird, but since when has weird ever meant bad in a FNAF game before, am I right? So we do just that, pack up all of our things and set out. You heard it here first. The Glitched Attraction is seriously a Five Nights at Freddy's escape room, a concept that sounded so cool I couldn't not check this game out, and I'm glad I did. We arrive at the attraction and 2 helper bots explain what's going to happen, and then we have to give over everything we have. Why the fuck did we bring everything we own if we're just going to give it to some random robots? This is pretty fishy smelling, and I should know because I haven't showered in 8 weeks. With the general rules explained, we continue onto the first section of the escape room as chipper as we can be. We're kicking our feet and heel clicking and shit, we're so giddy. Not knowing what we're getting ourselves into, we can dive into the first room of the Glitched Attraction. The first room has us in a room similar in style to the bedroom from Five Nights at Freddy's 4. This room, being the first, isn't very difficult, but let me go over the 4 threats you can find in this room. While you're trying to think, focus, and not be a fuck-up, Nightmare Balloon Boy will be sitting on a chair, because his fat ass wouldn't ever dream of helping anyone, but would instead prefer to sit there and be pointless. But sometimes, he gets a little antsy. You can tell when he's like this because he will visibly seize in his chair until you shine your flashlight at him. It's weird that doing this causes his seizure to stop though, because when I quickly shined a flashlight in my epileptic friend's eyes, he went comatose on the ground and started foaming at the mouth. But to each their own, I guess. If you don't aid in Balloon Boy's assisted suicide, he will jump off the chair and kill you. Something interesting I noted is that Balloon Boy actually makes no noise when he shakes or even when he jumps off of his chair, leading to a majority of his jump scares feeling really awkward. I get why he doesn't make any noise, because it'd be way too easy to not lose track of him, but just something I thought I'd bring up. You'll realize there's a giant window in this room as well, which lets you see outside. Occasionally, you'll be able to see Nightmare Fredbear stalking you from between the trees. Little does he know that his eyes are actually signal beams as bright as those stupid fucking white LEDs that are now being put onto vehicles, so that when I'm driving at night, everybody's headlights look like they have their fucking brights on. So when I flash my brights at them indicating to turn theirs down, then they actually turn their brights on, which simulate what I can only imagine to be the lights of God. And then I feel like an asshole because I just flashed a guy who didn't have their brights on. Sorry to go off on a tangent like that. I just really had to get my frustration about LEDs on cars out of the way, and I really didn't have a good outlet to do so. Anyways, you'll see Fredbear slowly inch closer to your window throughout the challenge, and when he gets super close, you'll have to close the curtains until you hear him laugh, signaling to you that he's gone away, and then you can reopen the curtains. Why on earth do you not just choose to keep the curtains closed the whole time then? I have no idea. It's not like we need the moonlight to see. The bots at the beginning gave us a fucking flashlight, but whatever, I guess. Speaking of your flashlight, little tiny stupid insignificant Freddles will periodically appear around your room. They make the same noise as they do in FNAF 4, so hearing them shouldn't be a problem, especially considering how god-awful annoying they sound. Shine your flashlight at them and bada bing bada boom, they go away. But if you let 3 stay in your room and assault your eardrums for too long, 2 of them will grab either one of your butt cheeks as the 3rd dives headfirst into your rectum, which some of you sick fucks may find pleasing, but I for one do not. The final threat you have to worry about is Night Marionette. If you somehow, by some miracle, haven't noticed in the footage I've been showing on screen so far, there is a giant hole busted into the wall of the room, which is very poorly boarded up. Why is it boarded up? I hear you asking? Oh yeah, forgot to mention, it's only because, Satan is in there with enough tentacles to make hentai for the next 9,000 years. But putting that thought aside, Night Marionette will occasionally give a sound cue to let you know she's there. If you look at the hole, you'll be able to see those tentacles creeping out. At this point, you'll need to make a mad dash to the Golden Freddy suit, which is conveniently placed in the room with you, and hide inside of it. Once you do so for long enough, Night Marionette will leave. Now, hold on. I'm not done talking about this stupid fucking Golden Freddy costume yet. I have some complaining to do, if you could imagine. This Golden Freddy suit takes about, 2 fucking decades to put on. I'm not kidding. You will feel like this game is broken or has paused as you are putting this fucking thing on. But if that wasn't enough, taking it off is somehow even worse. Rather than just exiting the costume, instead, the game thought it would be a great idea to have you teleport out of the costume, where you think you'd be able to continue moving around and interacting with things. But no, that'd be too convenient. Instead, once you teleport out of the costume, you have to just stand there for about 4 seconds doing absolutely nothing. No moving, no using your flashlight, just standing there like a dunce as time still passes around you. While in the Golden Freddy costume, did you happen to notice that Balloon Boy was tweaking out? Okay, cool. Night Marionette's gone. Let's quickly exit the costume and flash Balloon Boy. Oh wait! Instead of flashing Balloon Boy, i.e. saving your own life, let's instead stand there like we have an iron deficiency for 5 fucking minutes as Balloon Boy twerks his fat jiggly ass all over his goddamn chair. I really needed to get that out of my system. Surely I won't have to complain for the rest of the video now, right? Anyways, how do we actually beat this room's challenge? Good question. You'll notice on the wall there's a picture of Freddy broken up into pieces, with each piece facing a different direction. You can turn each piece in order to make the picture look normal again, but you'll notice that one of the pieces is missing. On the dresser, you'll see the FNAF 4 box that Scott Cawthon wiped his ass with. Of course, it has 2 locks. You can find one of the keys to the locks in a drawer on the dresser, and the other key in the drawer of your nightstand. Using both of these keys to unlock the locks on the box, bars, opens it, revealing the last piece of the Freddy puzzle. You can take that piece and put it back in place to finish the puzzle, revealing a 6-digit code. Quick tip, this number is randomized every time you play it, so no fast speed running for you, sucker. Going back to the nightstand, you can open a door to reveal a safe. You punch that 6-digit code into the safe, open it, and find a hammer. You can then use this hammer to take the nails off the wooden boards covering the closet door, then open the closet door and escape the bedroom. Do keep in mind that as you are trying to do this, you are getting fucked from all angles by about 179 different pieces of fuck. But overall, I think this is by far the easiest room to complete, which is probably how it should be given the fact that we have a lot more rooms to go through. Speaking of, let's get to the next one. The next room is much larger than the previous. This time there are only 3 threats: Toy Chica, Mangle, and the Cupcake. This room is basically a big circle. Chica will walk around the circle patrolling for you. If you get in her line of sight, she will start to chase you. If she catches you, she will throw the meanest right hook I've ever seen since Muzi. You can hide in any of the several lockers lining the walls, but be aware that not all lockers can open. And if you want to know something super awesome, which lockers open are randomized each time you play. Meaning if you lose a run, some of the lockers you hid in before probably will be locked this time. Isn't that awesome? The Cupcake will also patrol around, but he is much less important. He himself can't end your run, but if you're not watching him and accidentally step on him, he will squeak, causing Chica to be alerted to your exact location. For me personally, I hate this type of mechanics in games. I want to note, I don't think they're bad mechanics, I just don't like them. When there's a puzzle, I would like to be able to focus on the puzzle without having to worry about being chased at the same time. It also doesn't help that I don't handle being chased very well in any game, period. But it definitely doesn't help when I'm trying to focus on solving a puzzle on top of that. Just a me thing. But if that wasn't enough for my poor heart to handle, we have Mangle tacked on top of that. Mangle is hiding in the ceiling throughout the challenge. Occasionally, you will hear vent noises. When you do, that's when you know Mangle is about to drop down on yo ass. She has 2 possible drop locations. If you hear the vent noises on a side of the room that you're not on, you can safely ignore her as long as you don't then move to the side she's on. But if you hear her on a side of the room that you are on, you have 2 options. You can either A, move to the other side of the room, which might be a problem if Chica is over there, or B, hide in a locker. If you don't hide and Mangle happens to see you when she drops down, she will start to chase you. And unlike Chica, when Mangle chases you, there's no way to make her stop. At that point, even hiding in a locker won't be enough to be able to protect your cheeks. So, about the puzzle I was bitching about earlier. You'll notice a large door locked via a pin. The pin is 6 digits long and consists of 6 different symbols. Around the dark room, you'll have to find sticky notes on the walls that correlate each symbol to a number, which will give you the code order needed to unlock the door. If you couldn't have guessed, yes, this is also randomized each time you play. Simply find all the notes, type in the code, and you're done. Come on, you didn't really fall for that, did you? That was way too easy. This is a FNAF game, remember? And according to the FNAF game dev rules, difficulty equals quality. So let's make this as hard as possible. After opening up the door and flipping 4 switches to turn the power to the room on, a whole new world of fuck opens up to us, including a brand new threat, Withered Freddy. Withered Freddy sits inside of a music box, which I find weird because the marionette is literally in this room. I don't know why they didn't just use her for this mechanic, but whatever. Freddy's music box will slowly wind down, and if you don't keep it wound up, he will right hook, shatter the glass, hop out, and chase you. Just like Mangle, there's no hiding. If you hide inside of a locker, Freddy will stand outside of it and wait for you to come out. And when you do, you guessed it, he eats your ass. But because the devs of this game hate their players, if you wind Freddy's music box up too much, he will also shatter the glass and then shatter your sphincter. Cool. As if this wasn't hard enough for poor old Dxtr to handle. What do we have to do now? Well, inside of the room you opened, there's some shit on the wall and we need to find some gears to make the contraption work. Again, you will just walk around the room and find all the needed gears and put them back in their place. Once you do, a door on the opposite side of the room will open and you'll have to make a sprint of fate over to it. And then finally, the room is complete. This room isn't bad by any stretch of the imagination. I actually really like the concept of adding another threat halfway through. I just personally hate it for reasons stated earlier, but that's just a skill issue on my part. Moving on. Do you like complex things? Well boy, do I have a treat for you. The third room challenge is a nightmare. Let's waste no time and do a Tolarian Community College level threat assessment. This room has 4 threats: Springtrap, Dreadbear, Phantom Foxy, and Phantom Balloon Boy. Phantom Balloon Boy is simple, so let's cover him first. He works just as he does in Five Nights at Freddy's 3. He can randomly appear on any of the cameras. If you look at him on the camera for too long, he will jump scare you and cause a video error. Except the video error in this game just means that the camera he jump scared you on can never be used again for the rest of the run, which I promise you is a very bad thing, and the reason will be revealed later. Phantom Foxy can appear in any of the 2 doors connecting to your office. If you look at him for too long, he will charge at you and jump scare you, causing a level of hallucinations to appear. If too many levels of hallucinations appear at once, it's game over. Now, let's talk about the real threats of this night: Springtrap and Dreadbear. Dreadbear can be seen on the cameras and will attack either one of your doors. Do note that you can close these doors and they each have their own power supply. But Dreadbear is unaffected by the doors and will break them down if they're in his way. You'll have to watch the cameras to see which door he will be attacking, and when you see him charging towards one, you will have to hide under the desk on the opposite side of the desk to where he is coming from in order to stay out of his line of sight when he enters your office. Eventually, he will leave and you'll be safe to come back out. Springtrap is a goofy little thing, to say the least. Springtrap will climb through any of 3 vents, which you can see on the cameras. 2 vents bring him to your respective office doors, and the third leads to the vent that is directly above you. If you see Springtrap climbing through a door vent, you will have to simply close the door to the side he's going towards. If you see him climbing through a vent that brings him to the top of your office, you'll need to quickly turn off the power to the office and hide under your desk. He'll drop down, and once he can't see you because the lights are off, he will leave. You got all that down? Good. Because we have a whole load more of fuck to talk about next. That being, how do we escape this room? Well, the goal is to open a tiny vent near the ground beneath the TV screen. To start, you'll want to check near the desk to look for a code. It's random every time, and where it appears next to the desk is also random every time, so have fun. Once you get the code, you head over to the TV screen and press Developer Mode, and then type in the code you found in your office. This lets you activate Developer Mode, which opens up a door on the wall revealing a token. Keep in mind, all of the threats are active at this time. Using the token, you pop that puppy into the big arcade machine in your office, which promptly starts up a game. That's right, while defending yourself from an onslaught of fuck, you will also have to play an entirely other game at the same time. The game in question, Save the Children, is really just a bunch of fetch quests. To start, you'll talk to Balloon Boy, who is fishing and says he needs some balloons. By the way, if you couldn't have guessed, all of the items that you'll be collecting in this minigame will be in a random location every time you play. Because God hates you. When you bring the balloons back to Balloon Boy, he will give you one of the fish he caught. Then you need to find Old Man Consequences and give him the fish, since the pond he's fishing in doesn't have any. Once you give him the fish, he gives you a lily pad for some fucking reason. Don't question it. We don't have time to question it because I neglected to mention there's a fire spreading through the building as you're escaping, and if you take too long, it will reach your office and kill you. No, I'm not joking. Oh, and again, keep in mind, all of the threats I mentioned are still pulverizing your butthole. Once you have the lily pad, you'll take it back to Balloon Boy's pond and use it as a bridge to talk to this fucking robot thing. The robot says its watch is broken, so fuck you, go look for a clock. Once you find the clock and bring it back to the robot, he gives you a penguin, I think is what that thing is. Then you take the penguin over to Lolbit, who gives you a key to unlock a gate, which then leads you to an area where you need to unlock another gate. Yes, this minigame is still happening right now. You spelunk into a cave and talk to some dude who thinks the cave is too dark. You then have to leave the cave and go look for a torch, head all the way back and give the torch to him. He will then give you a key to unlock the other gate. And when you do, you'll exit the area leading to a William Afton cutscene where he goes sicko mode inside of his Springlock suit. And finally, you have to sit there and wait as the game reboots. Again, we're on a time crunch, so your butthole will probably be puckered at this point. Again, threats are still up the wazoo right now, so don't get comfortable. Once the system reboots, you'll get another 5-digit code which you can use to unlock a box on the office desk which reveals a key. You then use the key on a keyhole in the fucking wall for some reason, and at this point, no matter how much time you have left, the game will start to count down from 6. Once the fire reaches your office, the small vent I mentioned at the beginning of this room will finally open, and you'll be free to crawl through it, but not before Springtrap lunges out and grabs your ankle with lust in his eyes and shit. You quickly close the vent and decapitate that bitch, and finally, you complete the room. Holy shit, this room gave me a panic attack and made me shart my pants. Shall we begrudgingly move on to the next room? I think so. Let's keep this gravy train rolling. Do you enjoy having headaches? If you do, this next room is for you. Let's go over it together. I'll hold your hand. This room is made up of 2 hallways, 2 windows, and a bunch of screens, a small elevator, and a life-size 7-foot-tall circus baby animatronic. The goal of this room is to put baby back together, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's first go over the threats this room has to offer. The first threat is Ballora. At times you will hear her music box begin to play. Depending on which side of the room you hear the music coming from, you'll need to go over to that side's hallway and press an electric shock button that will electrify the doorway, shocking Ballora and making her go away. If she gets in, I'm guessing you can figure out what happens next. Ballora is the easiest threat. What else is there? Well, the 2 other threats are Funtime Foxy and Funtime Freddy. Occasionally, you will hear a gurgling sound cue, letting you know something is wrong with either Foxy or Freddy. You will have to run over to the windows and turn on the light to their room to see where they are. Starting with Foxy, if you see him doing the thug shaker on stage, you just press his shock button, and he will go back to how he's supposed to be. Be careful though, if you shock him too many times for no reason, he'll eat your ass like it's an all-you-can-eat buffet. Freddy, on the other hand, is slightly different. His light button doesn't work. Similar to Sister Location, while looking at him, occasionally sparks will fly out of the wires in his room, briefly illuminating. In this small window of time, you'll be able to see where Freddy is located. He will slowly make his way towards the window, and if he gets too close, you guessed it, ass in his mouth, eating it like a cupcake. If you see Freddy getting too close for comfort, you press the tape symbol button, which will make Bon Bon tell Freddy to get the fuck back on stage. And he promptly will. Again, like Foxy, if you push the tape button too many times for no reason, It's time for the bite of 87 on your asshole. Now, back to putting Baby back together to complete the night. You'll notice that Baby is missing both arms and both legs. The first thing you'll need to do is find the Baby chip hidden on the desk somewhere and plug it into the monitor. For some reason, we don't plug it into a computer, but I guess that's not really important now, is it? Once the monitor comes on, we need to call for Baby's different pieces, starting with her arm. The general goal is to get each piece of her delivered and then fuse each of them to her body. Before I get to the fusing part of this process, let me bitch about the delivery process. So obviously, delivering the parts will take time, which isn't what we want because, as usual, we're on a timer here. And because of it, the devs thought it would be oh so funny to have some of the pieces come in broken, and once you put them on and try to fuse them, only then it will tell you it is broken and won't work, and you'll have to take the piece back off, return it, which also takes time, and then order and wait for another piece to be delivered. Why was this necessary, guys? What neuron fired off in your brain that made you think, how can I be Satan today? Anyways, let's talk about fusing, because this is really where the headache of this challenge comes into play. Starting with fusing the head, which for some reason wasn't already fused on, even though the challenge started with her head already being on her body. In order to fuse Baby's body parts back to her torso, you have to complete a small minigame. For her head, it's basically just Simon Says, but with numbers instead of colors. But don't worry, the devs weren't just being nice and thinking about colorblind people. We'll get to that in just a minute. This is by far the easiest and least time-consuming part to fuse, but if you mess up a pattern once, you'll have to completely restart the head fusing process. Let's move on to her arms. The minigame for both arms are the same. The goal of this minigame is to divert power from the left side of the screen to the right. You do this by turning a bunch of 90-degree lines and 180-degree lines in order to make a consistent path from left to right. This sounds easy, but holy fucking shit, knowing you're on a time crunch and dealing with 30 pounds of dick in your ass at the same time definitely doesn't make this a smooth process. Do that for both arms and you're on to legs, the part that makes people like me want to die. In order to fuse the legs, you have to play a color matching game. You will see two grids of colors, one grid where you can change the colors and on the other you cannot. You have to copy it. Let's get the big elephant out of the room. If you're colorblind or deficient like I am, this challenge is borderline impossible. I'm lucky enough to not be completely colorblind or I would never have beaten this in my entire life. But not only that, but the grid each time has a missing square, as I'm sure you've noticed, but I'm also sure you've noticed that missing square on your side and the missing square on the side you're supposed to copy are in different locations. That's because they rotated the fucking grid. Talk about a headache, am I right? Maybe I'm just brain dead when it comes to this, but trying to comprehend where each color should go when it's rotated was just not a fun experience at all. I'm not even going to lie to you. But once you finally finish fusing all of Baby's pieces back together, a voice will come over the speakers telling you that all of the animatronics have been deactivated, and that you should exit through the hall on your right. When you do, you'll be led to the sister location elevator. Getting inside, it will slowly descend and then stop. You'll hear something laughing at you for a while, and then the elevator will suddenly drop and you die. The end. Game over. Okay, not really. That's just the transition to the next room. Are you ready? Because I sure as fuck aren't. Why did we agree to come to this place? It makes no sense. How does this place even exist? I could have died a solid 276 times at this point, and we're not even done yet. Someone needs to get this place investigated by the FBI because this is some bullshit. What a waste of a Saturday, am I right? Anyways, let's move on. After laying on the floor for approximately 8 days, we finally wake up from the fallen elevator. We walk past a large window and see the characters we just went up against. After the events of the last room, these little tiny robot things apparently grabbed all of the characters to bring them to the scooping room. And this room is presumably that. While we look across the floor of once familiar corpses, the bane of my existence and the shit in my diaper emerges from the tangled mess of wires. Ennard. This guy is the single reason why it took me so long to make this video, why it took me a month to beat this game. For most, it certainly wouldn't have taken this long, but for me, oh my lord, this next room will give me flashbacks like Charlie in the Trees for the next 5 decades, and possibly until I reach my grave. Remember the second room? How I mentioned I don't handle being chased very well? This room made me question if I would be able to continue making videos on this channel. or if I would have to jump ships to another genre to make review videos about. I'm not kidding, not even a little bit. I originally intended to beat this game on stream on Dxtr Black, and you can still see my first stream about this game where I gave up on Room 2. Well, for the people who tuned into that stream, now I didn't give up. But you should also be grateful that I didn't stream this entire process because I spent tens of hours trying to beat this next room alone. Let me explain why. Room 5 is the epitome of everything I hate in a horror game. Literally all the way down to the last detail. I'll give you a warning right now. This is 100% a me problem and is totally my subjective opinion. So, the only threat in this room is Ennard. Thankfully, there aren't any more, but dear lord, Ennard is all it needs. In terms of where we are story-wise, the elevator crashing was definitely not intended to happen, as upon beginning this room, we don't get a monitor telling us what our goals are. This is cool as a passing thought, but it's not really cool when you stop to think that there is absolutely nothing to explain what it is I need to do to complete the challenge. Upon beginning, we're given a wind to power flashlight and some writing on the wall telling us to light up a solar panel using the flashlight. Now, I'm already going to pause real quick. We're being shown a new mechanic, the wind up flashlight and solar panel. Cool. Now tell me, do you suspect we need to light up solar panels ever again in this entire challenge? Or the entire game? I'm assuming you said yes, but you'd be completely wrong. No, there's not a single other solar panel in this entire game. So please, tell me, why the fuck were we shown this? Showing us the flashlight makes sense, but there were countless other ways to do it in a much better way than showing us another mechanic that is never used again. This is exactly like the gun in Muzi. But continuing, once we light the solar panel, a large door opens and the challenge truly begins. The overall goal of this challenge is probably the easiest we've seen so far. It's broken up into 5 distinct tasks. Step 1, find a crowbar. Step 2, use the crowbar to force open a drawer near Kyle's desk to get a keycard. Step 3, use Kyle's keycard to open a door, allowing you to turn a generator on that powers computer monitors throughout the room. Step 4, find all 3 computers and input 3 colored fuses into each. The fuses are conveniently placed in boxes right next to the computers, so I appreciate that. And step 5, go back to the generator and turn on the central power, which opens the door, allowing you to climb a ladder and beat the challenge. Sounds simple, right? Well, yes. It is simple, but now I need to talk about the problem. Ennard. Ennard will be patrolling the giant maze of a room the entire time you are performing these tasks. If he sees you, he will begin to chase you. If you get caught, you will lose all progress you've made throughout the challenge. Let me tell you another fact. Unlike every room in this game so far, this room ain't small. No, this room is very fucking large. I hate everything about life. Let me complain about some more stuff. If you are near Ennard, he will hear you and be alerted to you if you do the following. Wind up the flashlight. Makes sense. It's really loud. I can understand that one. If you run. Okay, yeah. I've seen that in other games before. Running is louder than walking is, and walking. That's right. If you move, period, while he is anywhere remotely close to you, he will hear you and start to chase you. What the fuck? And once he starts chasing you, there's only 2 ways to get him to stop. The devs must have been smoking crack and playing Dead by Daylight while they were designing this section, because one of the methods used to escape an Ennard chase is by knocking over wood pallets placed around the room. Quickly break the pallets and continue to chase you if you don't hot bottom out of there at light speed. What's the second way of escaping a chase? I hear you asking? Well, it's by stunning Ennard. How do you stun Ennard? I hear you asking again. That's a great question. I have no fucking idea. I'm not joking. I literally have no fucking clue on earth how, on God's green fuck, you're supposed to stun Ennard. How do I know you can stun him? Well, every time you die, which, judging by the fact it took me borderline a month to beat this challenge, I did quite frequently, you will get a tip on the loading screen. One of these tips tells you that stunning Ennard will give you more time to run away than knocking over a pallet will. So I know you can, but the game doesn't elaborate on how to do that as far as I'm aware. So to this day, I still have no idea how to stun Ennard. I don't know what the hell the game is talking about. I'm stumped. But I'm not even close to done talking about this section of the game. No. I spent a fucking month on this. I can dedicate a few pages of my script to it. You can sit down and listen, I don't care if this video ends up being an hour long. You see, there is a very large, steaming hot, glaring issue with this challenge in specific. Since it's technically not a part of the canonical attraction, there's no tip screen at the beginning. But with no tip screen, there's no telling anyone fuck about fuck. So, as I said, there are 3 computers around the level. Each computer has a box of fuses with differently colored patterns on them right next to them. Each computer requires 3 different fuses. How do you figure out which fuses go where? Well, at first I looked at the colors of the wires going into the computer. I thought maybe this will give me a hint as to what I'm supposed to do. So I tried to grab the fuses out of the box, but I couldn't. So then I thought, oh, maybe these aren't the fuses, and the actual fuses are randomly placed around the map. So I went to look. I looked, and I looked, and I looked, but I never found any fuses. Eventually, I died for probably the 48,000th time to see a tip appear on my screen. You won't be able to pick up fuses until you turn on the monitors. You didn't think to tell me that? You didn't think that was important information to give out earlier? This is why we need the fucking tip screen, asshole. But fuck me, whatever, sure. So then I started trying to figure out how to turn the monitors on. I tried seeing if I could press the buttons on the monitors, but that didn't work, so then I decided to try and find something else to do. Eventually, I found a note next to a door mentioning that Kyle leaves a keycard in his desk to open said door. Okay, cool. Something to do has just fallen into my lap. Let's go find Kyle's desk. Luckily for me, desks are in the same location every time you play, so we don't have to worry about those being randomized. After looking for a very long time, because again, I don't handle being chased well at all, it's like I fucking lock up and start freezing. I don't know what's wrong with me, I just can't handle it. So, most of the gameplay boiled down to me moving incredibly slowly and taking way more time than I ever needed to complete this challenge. But that's how I personally had to do this if I wanted to play it myself, which is also why the footage you're watching right now isn't mine. Thank you, Kono and Indie Fuel. I eventually find Kyle's desk to then find another note from Kyle mentioning that you need a crowbar to be able to open his drawer with the keycard in it. Fuck me. So, after searching for another 100 years, I find the crowbar on a desk and use it to open the drawer to get the keycard. 400 hours and 2,000 deaths later, I use the keycard to open the door and find the generator inside. Flip the switch and boom, the computers are now on. Now, 5,000 deaths later, I finally get to the point where I can pick up the fuses and match the correct fuses to the ones shown on the screen. After 25,000 deaths, I managed to correctly match the fuses of all 3 computers. Keep in mind, every time I die, I have to completely restart this entire process, all the way back to shining the flashlight at the solar panel. I'm on the verge of death. So finally, I make it back to the generator to turn it on and finish this godforsaken challenge. And I do, expecting the door next to it to open. It doesn't. Come in real close for me. Come in real close. This fucking door needs a separate key that spawns randomly in the level. I'm going to clench my teeth together so hard that they shatter into a fine powder. This right here is what took me the longest. So finally, after 100,000 deaths, I finally get the key to the generator to unlock the door. Come on real close again for me, real close one more time. Take a guess what's in this room. Is it the exit to let me move on to the next challenge? No, it's just fucking lore. I didn't know this while I was playing. I don't watch videos about the games I play, so I had no idea what was behind this fucking door. I know that's 100% my fault, but dear God, when I tell you how fucking pissed I was when I finally figured out this after hours upon hours of attempts, I was fucking livid. I wish I was recording my attempts so I could show you my reaction. You want to know what happened after a reasonable crash out in this room? Ennard fucking walked in and killed me, making me start from the beginning again. Once again, I wasn't recording. However, this exact same thing happened to Markiplier, so I'll show you footage of this happening to him instead.
Good. I was about to say, if that guy could have come in here, I would have been so mad. How could you ever get me in here?
The amount of vulgarities that emerged from my lungs at a speed of Mach 50 in that moment was astronomical, enough to shake trees and shatter the sound barrier. I was fucking livid. But again, I know full well that this entire section, this entire 4 pages of my script is an experience that only I have had. Nobody else on Earth struggled with this challenge as much as I did. Nobody in history has ever spent a calendar month pouring attempts into this section of a game that should only take 20 minutes to complete. I know it's a skill issue, and a very hard skill issue at that, but I could not, under any circumstance, neglect to mention how bullshit of an experience I had. I hope you enjoyed this segment. I eventually found the door to the generator, opened it, and climbed up the ladder into the next challenge of this godforsaken fuck-ass game. From one anxiety attack to another, let's talk about room 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3, and that's how many threats we have to talk about in this level. Awesome segue, Dxtr. Thanks, Dxtr. The first threat we'll talk about is Molten Freddy. Molten Freddy can appear in one of 2 vents occasionally. When you hear or see him in one, you'll have to break your mouse and spam click a lever in the vent to blind him with a light more powerful than the sun. Every time you flash him, he gets slightly pushed back, which leads to you spending an infuriating amount of time spamming the fucking lever to make him go away. The next threat is Scrap Baby. As I'm sure you've noticed, we're locked inside a fenced area. On the outside of the fence is a forest, and occasionally you'll be able to see Baby limping her way out from between the trees towards your fence. When she gets to the fence, she'll hop that shit like an Olympic athlete and fuck your shit up. To stop her, you must go to this random screen in the wall and activate the repel system, which plays the most ear-piercing sound I've ever heard in my entire life. So I totally understand why that makes Baby go away. The final threat is Scrap Trap, who in my opinion is the stupidest looking FNAF character ever designed. You can see Scrap Trap sitting on a chair down a long hallway. You must watch him closely as he will slowly start to move until his head is eventually in an upright position. When it is, you must use the same screen you used for Baby, but instead close the door and use the call system to lure him to you. After waiting what will feel like an eternity, you will be able to hear him stand up from the chair and sprint like Usain Bolt towards the door, and pound on it like he's on speed. Then he will go back to the chair and you can open the door and turn off the call system. By the way, the call system is also the worst sound I've ever heard in my whole life. Thank you for asking. That may not sound all bad, but having to deal with all 3 of these fuckers and do the other bullshit we have to do, I promise it will become difficult to manage. So what is it we have to do? Well, the goal is to remove the chains from a fence gate so that we can open it. Simple enough. To start, you'll notice another screen different from the one used to defend yourself. On it, you'll find the opening minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's Pizzeria Simulator. You will need to complete 4 levels of this game, which in and of itself isn't a hard challenge, but when the music is pretty loud, listening for the other characters can be a problem, especially when Scrap Trap doesn't make any noise until it's already too late. After beating this game, you will unlock a prize that we can't access at this moment, so we'll get back to it in a second. Afterwards, you'll need to look around your surroundings to find 2 pieces of paper with a number ranging from 1 to 3 on them, accompanied by a silhouette of a FNAF character. You can use these pieces of paper to input a code into this little toy thing. I don't know what this thing is, if I'm being honest. You only need 2 pieces of the code because you can just brute force the last one. After getting the code correct, a key will emerge. Take that key and run down the hall and unlock a door to the right of Scrap Trap. This is personally where I think this level gets specifically hard, since we'll be spending most of our time in here now, meaning we won't be able to hear Scrap Trap and Molten Freddy. So if you forget to check on them, it's basically GG's. Inside this new room, we can finally obtain the prize we got from beating the Pizzeria Simulator minigame, a Faz coin. You'll notice a projector that's projecting a cut-up piece of paper on the wall. If you pull a lever on the same wall, this tiny little Freddy I can't remember the name of will try to read the projection, but he obviously won't be able to do so because it's only a small piece of a paper, you fucking idiot. Using the Faz coin, you can go back into Scrap Trap's room and insert it into Rockstar Freddy's stomach, and then press 3 buttons on his body in an order listed on a piece of paper. This makes sense, by the way. This will cause his mouth to open, revealing the other pieces of paper you need. Slap those bitches on the projector and put them together like a puzzle, which, side note, is a pain in the ass for no reason. The controls are super janky. Slap the lever with your big Coke can penis and have bitch Freddy read it. When he does, a door next to Rockstar Freddy will open with some bolt cutters inside. You can use these bolt cutters to cut the chains off of the fence and escape this level. This level might not seem as difficult as some of the other ones have, and while none of these levels are particularly difficult in terms of what you literally have to do, all of the levels, and this one specifically, build up so much stress and really test your nerve control. After jumping down some weird looking cellar door, we enter a new room with a computer in it. It shows an error that it detected human movement. Obviously, we just entered the room, of course. While reading through the files on the computer that detail a plan to revive someone through our corpse. Another human detection error shows up on screen. Knowing that we haven't moved, we turn around and get our shit smacked up by Vanny and get knocked out. Fun fact, you can actually spot Vanny spying on you in almost every other level in the game if you're looking closely enough. Just something cool I thought I'd bring up. We wake up to Vanny dragging us into an unknown room. And rather than me explaining what happens next, I'd rather just show you. Afterwards, we walk through what appears to be memories of the Bite of 87 events, and the game comes to a close.
Five Nights at Freddy's has a very distinct formula that makes all of its fan games instantly recognizable. Very rarely do I see a FNAF fan game and not be able to say it's a FNAF fan game, and I think you'd agree. If I showed you a video clip of a FNAF fan game you've never seen, I'm pretty confident that you'd be able to tell me it's a FNAF fan game, and you would most likely be 100% right. Sometimes, however, a FNAF fan game will be so well made to the point that at first glance you'd think it's just a normal horror game. Obviously, if you were to begin playing it, you'd very quickly notice it's a fan game, but my point is that in the gaming landscape, unless you're specifically looking for a FNAF fan game to play, even just seeing that formula or look of one would probably turn somebody away. And the game I'll be covering today is a perfect example of the opposite of that. By looking at the gameplay of this game, there's a good chance that, considering you haven't seen it before, you might not be able to tell it's a FNAF fan game at all. That's also considering you don't know who Circus Baby is. I'll get more into her when the time comes, but whatever. I really needed a hook to start this video with. Maybe this one isn't my strongest, but it's what I wrote, so it's what we're going with. The game we'll be diving into today is the Web of Cogs and Oil. Before we begin, in the last video I asked you what your favorite non-DLC specimen from Spooky's Jumpscare Mansion was and why. My favorite comment was this one by Joker of Spades. They chose Specimen 1 because it's pretty funny how it has killed a person, and I agree. I know that they cause heart attacks to kill, but I think the funny part is how that's only ever worked on one person, one time, ever. Also, I've never said this publicly, but I have a Twitter and an Instagram account that you can follow if you're interested. I'm not super active on either right now, but I figure it'd be the normal YouTuber thing to do, so those are in the link in the description. YouTube also keeps sending me emails telling me to set up channel memberships. I feel like it's a bit too early in this channel's lifespan to set something like that up, but let me know if that's something you guys would be interested in. I would just put stuff on there for members like early access to videos, allowing you guys to have a say in what game I make a video on next, blah blah blah, membership stuff. Also, let me know if you'd prefer I did it through YouTube memberships or Patreon, but of course, that doesn't need to happen if you all don't want it to. Sorry, that intro was a bit longer than my normal ones, but it's over now, so let's hop into the Web of Cogs and Oil. The Web of Cogs and Oil is both similar to Five Nights at Freddy's and different from it at the same time. In Five Nights at Freddy's, you start on a menu screen, select new game, and night 1 begins. The Web of Cogs and Oil does it a bit differently. Rather than having the game split up into nights, it's split up into challenges. The Web of Cogs and Oil has 4 monsters, and each monster has its own challenge that you can select from the menu, and each plays differently. I actually really like this non-linearity, because if I were to get stuck on one monster and get super frustrated, I could always take a break from that one and work on another. Now, of course, to be fair, I don't feel like you'll be getting frustrated with any of these monsters, because none of their challenges I felt were very difficult. In fact, I beat all but one of them on the first try.
What can I say? Pretty amazing. So, yeah, worship me. Moving along, I'm going to be talking about the monsters from left to right as they appear on the menu. So let's begin by talking about the corpse. The corpse is by far the easiest to defeat. When you load in, you'll immediately see a timer that begins counting down, and this is the same for all monsters. All you have to do is survive until that timer runs out. I actually really like this mechanic because I feel it causes much more anxiety and stress because you can really see how close you are to completing the challenge, and when you feel like you're on the brink of losing, seeing that you only have 10 seconds left to go can really make your asshole invert even deeper into your body. The corpse has a very basic mechanic. In this challenge, you're locked in a freezer with it. You are at the back of the freezer and the corpse is standing in the doorway blocking your only exit. All he does is walk forward, but he'll only do so when the lights on the ceiling begin to dim. I think this is really creepy. Not scary, but creepy. I'd like to imagine that he only moves while the lights are dim in hopes that you don't see him moving. Imagining it like that makes the atmosphere all the more terrifying. So, how do you keep the lights from going dim, you may be asking? Well, if you'd shut up and let me do my job here, I'd tell you, so pipe down, bud. In front of you, facing the corpse, there is a pole coming out of the ground with a crank attached to it. When you spin the crank, it'll recharge the lights on the ceiling, and if the corpse had already inched closer to you, as the lights become brighter, he'll move away from you and back to the entrance of the freezer. But if that were all, it'd be far too easy. Behind you, there is a thermostat that is constantly going down, making the freezer colder. You'll have to make sure the freezer's temperature doesn't drop too low, because if it gets too cold, you'll shiver so hard that it causes your back to snap in half and you'll die. However, you have to make sure you don't raise the temperature of the freezer too high either. The higher the temperature of the freezer, the faster your lights will dim, leaving you vulnerable to the corpse. And that's it. Do that until the timer runs out and you'll have beaten the corpse. Before we move on to the next monster, I'd like to mention that there is a remaster of this game that is currently being worked on. It's on hiatus right now, but I think it'd be fun to offer some suggestions to the dev that I think would be a cool addition. I love the way each monster plays as it is, but I think it'd be a cool idea if there was sort of a new game plus type feature, wherein after you beat a monster, you can challenge them again and the difficulty will increase, granting you a second star for that monster. But I feel that the way you'd increase the difficulty should definitely be through mechanics rather than just saying, "Hey, thermostat, go down quick, corpse move faster and throw cheeks." For the corpse, I think a really interesting way to increase his difficulty would be to make it so that once he inches closer to you, he won't move back once you recharge the lights. This will make the whole challenge feel much more intense, as you won't be able to spend nearly as long on the thermostat as you typically could. Again, this is purely a new game plus type of idea, as I think the way each monster plays normally is pretty perfectly balanced. This would just be for the sociopaths who want more of a challenge. The second monster is the Dxtr. The Dxtr is a little toy clown. In his challenge, you're sitting in a bedroom with him in front of you. All you have as a tool of defense is a flashlight. However, the battery to this flashlight drains pretty quickly, so having it on for too long will very easily fuck you over. The Dxtr begins in front of you, slumped over. You'll have to listen closely for his footsteps. Once you hear him begin to move, you'll have to find which side of the room he's running towards and flash your light at him. Once you do, he'll ragdoll on the ground in a very painful looking way. If at any point he goes off of either side of your screen, it's game over. Fun fact, this is the only monster I lost to, if you were curious. However, I don't blame myself. Watch this clip. That was not my fault. That was not my fault. We flashed him. We flashed him. What is this bullshit? That, my friends, is what I call Class A bullshit. Anyways, that's not all this little fucker does. If all you had to do was listen, it'd be incredibly easy. This guy will also move without making any noise at all. When he does, he won't move towards the sides of your screen like he does when he makes noise. Instead, he'll slowly inch towards you. This forces you to turn your flashlight on to check his location all the time to make sure he's not creeping up on you. But of course, because your flashlight drains so quickly, doing so isn't exactly something you'll want to do. On top of this, there are also 2 jack-in-the-boxes on both sides of the room. Occasionally, they will pop open and create footstep sounds that are basically identical to the Trickster's, and will trick you into turning your light on. Get it? Trick, like in Trickster? Like it's his name? Trickster? Trick? like that's why they call him the Trick. Repeat this process until the timer runs out, and you're all good. I think a fun way to increase the Trickster's difficulty would be to require your flashlight to be on for a period of time before you could turn it off. I say this because by the time I finished the challenge, my flashlight battery was basically half full. All you need to do is very quickly flash it off and on. This gives you enough time to check and make sure he's still there without wasting almost any battery at all. By requiring your flashlight to stay on for even a full second or two before being allowed to be turned back off, you would force the player to have a much lower battery life by the time the challenge is over, making you really think about when you should be using it throughout the challenge. The third monster is the Demon. This one is a doozy. In this challenge, you'll find yourself in a basement with 4 candles and a pentagram on the wall. All you have to do is manage 3 things. 1. Make sure the demon's candles don't go out. The demon has 3 of the 4 candles. 2. Make sure the servant's candle doesn't go out either. The servant has the remaining 1 candle. And 3. Make sure the pentagram on the wall doesn't get too bright. Doing all of these things is really easy. It's managing them all at the same time that can get stressful. Let's start with the pentagram. Throughout the night, it will slowly begin to get brighter and brighter. All you have to do is click hold on it to slowly dim it back down. It's pretty much the music box from FNAF 2. The demon's candles will occasionally go out at random. When one does, all you have to do is click on it to relight it. Super simple. It's the servant's candle that makes this challenge hard. The servant's candle goes out far more frequently than the demon's does, and when his candle does go out, instead of killing you like the demon does, he instead will go over to the demon's candles and blow them out. And he does this very fast. It feels like most of the time that the moment that little asshole's candle goes out, he spawns on the demon's candles and blows those bitches out. It's honestly the pentagram, however, that will really make your penis retract inside your body. Even though dealing with it is super easy, because of how frequently you'll be dealing with the servant, you'll often find yourself not having enough time to tend to it, meaning that as the challenge comes closer to a close, the pentagram is going to be bright as shit, and I promise you that when it is, you'll be holding your breath. I think an interesting way to make this challenge more difficult would be to have the servant blow out 2 candles at a time rather than just 1. This only works because when all of the demon's candles are snuffed, he doesn't kill you immediately. I also think that if all the demon's candles are out and the servant's candles are out at the same time, you should die instantly. This would just add another epic layer of stress to a challenge that already fondled me non-consensually. The final monster is the Machine. This one is Circus Baby from FNAF. I don't totally understand why the dev chose to use a FNAF character in this game, considering the other 3 monsters were all original, but I digress. If the other 3 challenges didn't make your butthole pucker enough, I promise you that this one will. In this challenge, you're in a very large industrial building. In the room you're in, you'll find a door with a valve keeping it closed, a window in front of you, and a maintenance panel. This challenge switches up the formula in a really small but very interesting way. In this challenge, you're against the clock. Rather than surviving, you never want that timer to reach 0, because if you do, I bet you could take a pretty good guess as to what happens to you. So how do you escape? Well, throughout the building there are several locked doors. You'll have to use the maintenance panel to unlock each of them before leaving the room you're in and escaping. Upon opening the maintenance panel, you'll see all 5 doors marked red and a D-pad on the side of the screen. You'll have to wait until one of the arrows on the D-pad glows green and then press that corresponding arrow on your keyboard. Do this 5 times and the door will turn green, signifying that it has been unlocked, which means doing this 25 times is all you have to do. However, these arrows don't glow immediately. I'd say there's a good 3 seconds between each arrow lighting up. And since you're in a time crunch where every second counts, 3 seconds will feel like a lifetime. You might be wondering where Baby is. Well, you better not keep your panel up for too long because she will quickly, and I mean very fucking quickly, inch closer and closer towards your window. Just looking at her will make her slowly move away. But once she reaches a certain point, no matter how long you look at her, she won't move back. If she gets too close, she'll break the window and kill you. This adds such a high level of stress it isn't even funny. You might think, well, if the arrows take a while to glow and you need to spend time watching baby, that sounds super simple. But you also need to keep in mind how fast she moves. Having that panel up for 1 second will allow her to move 2 stages towards your window sometimes, and it'll take a solid 3 to 4 seconds to make her completely go away. Do you see the problem here? It is so incredibly stressful, but hey, once you unlock all 5 doors, all you need to do is leave. But all the things are done. Oh, you're fucking kidding. You're fucking kidding. I lied. After doing all that and realizing how little time you have left on the clock, now you need to slowly crank the valve on the door enough times to get it to unlock. And unlike the maintenance panel, the door is not on the same screen as the window, so you'll have to painstakingly look back and forth from the door to baby. Again, 1 second is enough to make her launch light speed at that goddamn window, so having to look away, do a task, and then look back will feel like a fucking calendar year. But once you get that door open, you're home free. I honestly can't think of a super great way to make this challenge any harder in a meaningful way. Even though I beat it on the first try, it was still easily the most stressful and challenging. I'm pretty sure I only finished with 2 seconds remaining, but if I had to think of something to add more challenge, I'd say each door you unlock in the maintenance panel should have a different way of unlocking it. The first door could be the arrow keys, but maybe the second door you have to click one of 9 glowing buttons instead, and then another one could maybe be a number on your keyboard, and then each other door would have their own simple task to do, and you could have each door's task randomized so that you couldn't prepare for what you'll have to see in a playthrough. I think you should definitely leave the final door section the same though. I think it's so cool how that's thrown at you last minute, and I love it. But that was the web of cogs and oil. Overall, I think this game is fantastic. It's only a 20 to 30 minute playthrough, so if you have the time, I definitely recommend you check it out. You can watch my full playthrough on my second channel, Dxtr Black. I think letting the player choose the order of the monsters they want to fight adds so much to the game that I don't think enough people think about. Imagine you had to complete them in a set order. I'm sure most people did them from left to right, but imagine you didn't even have the choice. I know it seems small, but I feel like if we didn't have the option, we'd definitely notice. Although what you need to do in each night is incredibly easy, they're still balanced in such a perfect way that by the final 30 seconds, they'll all have you stressing out and sweating more than when you walk up the stairs at a below reasonable pace. I know you guys are out of shape. Go hop on the treadmill for 15 to 30 minutes a day. I promise you'll notice a difference in how you feel. But let me know what you think in the comments below. Before I go, the question of the video is, what is your favorite monster from the web of cogs and oil, and why? With the question being asked, I've been Dxtr, and I'll see you all in the next video. See ya!